Highliner Gymnastics tonight here on the Highliner Activity Network. Things getting started here in just a few minutes as the Highliners will take on Dickinson. Chauncey Crewell joining us. How you doing?
I'm good.
Are you ready for your first foray as an announcer in gymnastics?
I'm excited, yes. This is awesome.
And I'm surprised I used the word foray correctly. Though we are about ready to get things up here in just a couple of minutes. We will have the introductions, we'll have the national anthem, and then this meet will begin. 4 teams here, Grand Forks, Jamestown, Valley City, and then an addition here on Friday. The Dickinson gymnastics team came in. So, Chauncey, we are talking the top 3 teams in the state of North Dakota in gymnastics here tonight.
Yes. Then 1, 2, and 3 at state last year, so this is exciting competition.
And really, there's no reason why these 3 teams can't be right there again, because a lot of returners for both. And of course, Dickinson, they just seem to reload every single year.
Oh, yeah, they have a lot of new 7th graders coming in, top performers here.
And you talk about those 7th graders, I mean, they've learned from the older girls, so they see them in the gym every single day. How much of a plus is that? Not only like for you, when you were starting out in gymnastics and you saw the older girls and what they did with that, is that just a big help for you as you progress?
Yes, 100%. Their program has been great for so many years, and just like being a 4th grader is seeing the bigger girls work super good, being super good, it just motivates you so much more, and it builds the best program you can get.
Well, the Highliners, of course, last year second in state, the best finish at a state meet for gymnastics in 20-some years, I think. I think in the 90s, the last time it happened. And, back, obviously, Abby Thornton is back. She was a 3rd at the state meet last year. Karina Olson is back. And also Grace Undum, Zoe Bierke, Maddie Wendell. You and Olivia, the only 2 that graduated.
Yep.
So that's pretty good.
Oh, yes.
They have that much of talent coming back for this year.
Yeah, and the team has got so many upgrades over the summer, and they're looking good.
And the numbers, too. I know not just with the high school team, but you look at Valley Gymnastics and the Twisters program here. They got like 100 and some kids that are here in the gym building this program. Because isn't that how you build a varsity level? It's from the little kids all the way through?
Yes, this is like the best numbers I think we've had in a long time, and the numbers are numbers, but they're like good gymnasts. They're hardworking, they love to come to the gym, they're motivated. It's an awesome program we're building here.
Do you miss it?
I do miss it, but I like watching.
Now there's no pressure on you. You can just sit and enjoy yourself and watch it. And how about coaching-wise? Do you get a chance to maybe, if Karina or Abby or Grace, do you kind of help them that way too a little bit?
Oh yeah, I come to the gym sometimes and they talk to me a lot. They ask for advice. It's fun.
And of course they know their own thing too. But maybe there's something they're missing or
yeah.
Like
and just being here for so long.
Yeah.
Like they're just looking up and seeing what I had to say.
They like to pick the brain.
Yep, they do.
The big sister, pick the brain.
It's fun.
It is, and you can. It's probably less. It's great. You got Johnny and the coaching staff helping out, but when you've got gymnasts that have been on the mat, they've been on the floor exercise, they've been on the beam, you've been out there, and it's probably better or easier to take some advice or at least some tips from you guys.
Oh yeah, 100%. We know like how they're feeling, and so like we can relate more.
And mentality-wise.
Oh yes.
It's a lot. A lot goes on. The wheels are constantly turning as you get ready. Now we're going to have the introductions here and the national anthem coming up here momentarily. But I guess one thing too, Chauncey, being that this is our second meet for Valley City, I think Dickinson, this will be their 4th meet actually. They've already got a 149 score this year, also a 148. So this will be their 3rd meet. Are you going to have a lot of skills? You're not going to be putting a lot of stuff out there tonight, being not only that it's early, but you got Jamestown and Dickinson, because a lot of these kids are still in training, aren't they?
Oh yes, they're still working upgrades. They're still trying to perfect the skills before they put them out on the floor. You just want to be 100% ready for the skill before you put it on the floor.
How about confidence-wise? Is that something too that's what you mean? You want to be confident in that skill before you put it in your routine?
Yeah, and also like if you're confident in the skill, you're probably going to make it. But if then you fall, then you don't have that great score into the rankings. And so you just want to have solid routines at the beginning, and then you can start throwing hits here and there.
What was the hardest skill for you?
Oh, my double back. I could never land that thing.
Could you do it now when no pressure?
Oh, no way. I haven't been in the gym forever.
And did you have a favorite, not so much best, but just a favorite event?
Oh, yeah, bars was. You never knew what was going to happen.
And you look at, like, the floor. Obviously, you have the gymnastics part of it, but there's some dancing involved, and that's a very detailed event, isn't it?
Super fun event, too. The gymnasts get really into it, and it could be very fun.
And not just the ones that are on the floor, but the teammates clapping, keeping time.
They all dance along. It's a good environment.
Well, we're going to have the introductions are coming up here. Again, our national anthem as well, and then we're going to get started. It is Jamestown, Dickinson, Valley City, and Grand Forks here at the Youth Sports Complex here in Valley City. High school gymnastics coming up, and we'll be back with our first event, and that first rotation is right around the corner. This is Highliner Gymnastics on the Highliner Activity Network.
All right, welcome to Valley City for our first gymnastic meet of the season. Thank you to the 4 teams that drove out here today. With us today, we have the Dickinson Midgets, coached by Casey Berry. And the Grand Forks Night Riders, coached by Megan Johnson, Mara Nash, and Emily Kulachowski. Next up is the Jamestown Blue Jays, coached by Andrea Bitts. And our host team, the Valley City Highliners, coached by Johnny Cobbler, Abby Brown, and Courtney Mack. Thanks to our judges for coming out today. On vault, we have Grace Anderson and Sheila Anderson. Over on bars, Rachel Woodley. On beam, Lori Julian and Olivia Olson. And on floor, Katie Anderson. Just a few announcements. If you have family or friends that were not able to make it today, we are streaming this event on our streaming channel. Just go to our highliners.org website and let them know to click on the live stream link. We are being commentated today by Paul McDonald, Jocelyn Freewell, and Jaden Johnson's running camera. Just some reminders, no flash photography. I'm not sure if we're flashing scores, but if we are, they may not be final. Bathrooms are just underneath all of you right now. You can come around here, swing around, and they're towards the middle. At the conclusion of the meet, the top 10 in each event will be recognized. Our athletic trainer today is Mike Callahan from Essentia Health. And please stand for the national anthem. your cheers, then go to your first event. Have a great meet.
Back here at the U Sport Complex in Valley City, the Highliners gymnastics team getting ready to host this meet, first home meet of the season for the Highliners, taking on and here the Dickinson Midgets, defending state champ. What is it, 8 years, I think, running. They have been state champs.
It's been a while.
I mean, I don't think you were born yet the last time they didn't win this. No, I'm kidding. But Dickinson, along with the Grand Forks Knight Rider, of course, combination of Red River and Central, the Jamestown Blue Jays, and the Highliners. And again, for folks that might be new to gymnastics, each team is on an event, as is that the way the rotation goes. They Jamestown will be on one event, Dickinson will be on another. That's kind of how they do that, correct?
Yep, and they'll rotate. And I think Olympic order bars or vault bars beam floor, I believe.
Okay. And they will have teams getting going here. We'll keep track on scores as best as we can, and keep you updated on how the things are going. Again, after the two events, after the second rotation, there'll be a halftime, if you will, and about a 10-minute break. We'll take a quick break there, get some numbers totaled up, and then we'll be back and talk more about it. But we've talked about the gymnasts that are here at Chauncey, and easily the top. Well, right now you look at the standings. Valley City doesn't have their meet in yet, but you have easily probably the top 8 to 10 gymnasts in the state here today.
Oh, yes. Top 5 right now, without Valley City standings in there, are Dickinson. So that's going to be super exciting rotations.
And you look at that, not one of them is a senior. You got a junior, a 7th grader, a couple of sophomores, and an 8th grader.
Yeah, they are strong and young.
And the Highliners, too, no seniors.
Yeah, that's awesome. Abby and Karina are both juniors.
Yeah. So, I mean, they... and gymnastics, too. You get those 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. They're going to be they're a vital part of your team. They may not score huge, but they're still going to be a vital part of your team. Yeah,
then they'll grow and upgrade their skills. And when they're juniors, seniors, they'll be awesome.
Well, we have getting things started here in just a few minutes. And looks like Dickinson will be on the beam first. And we'll have the rotations as we go. Jamestown, Dickinson. And you've seen a lot of these young ladies on the up close and personal, Chauncey, in your years competing. And so we're going to trust in you saying, oh, I know, she's the top dog in the state. And we're talking about Amy Fridley. Defending state champ in the all-around. In multiple events. Because I think 4 or 3 she was a state champion last year. Of course, I think Jamestown, Rachel Sheely graduated. So she was one of their top gymnasts. So she is graduated. And, of course, you and Olivia both graduating too. But a lot of talent in this state. And really, would you have to say that the East... it's you, but the West is where a lot of the good gymnastics is right now.
Yes, top 3 are usually from the West, and then we're just in there somewhere.
Dickinson, Legacy, has always had some good gymnastics.
Yeah.
Obviously, Jamestown out west, Bismarck High. Allison King, I think, is one of the top 10 in the state out of Bismarck High. So it's a great sport that's really getting going here. And gymnastics in the state of North Dakota, the state tournament was awesome last year in Jamestown as far as crowd and enthusiasm. It's really grown a lot here in the state.
Yeah, it was super exciting last year. And if you look at the standings, there are not many seniors. So it's going to be awesome for the next 2 years here.
We'll keep an eye on how things progress here this year. And just a reminder, we will have another meet coming up on Monday. It's the blue and white meet. And, of course, that's the one when Jamestown comes over and you kind of mix and match.
Yeah, and you just get to talk with other teams. And it's a really good environment. It's so sweet. You get to meet other people. I loved it.
And it's a fun one, and it's not so much because now, if I remember correctly, you do your routines and they kind of throw the scores together, don't they?
Yeah, well,
and make 4 teams.
Yep. Usually, you used to before COVID, actually divide into teams, so you'd mix and match with Jamestown, and then you go on events. And then, but last year we just divided the team scores up randomly. But yeah, that's Monday, and I think the gymnasts are very excited for it because it's way less stressful. You just get to have fun. It's a fun competition.
Well, as we get things ready here, just checking out where the looks like the Highliners are going to start on the vault. Is that correct there, where they're going to be?
Yep. Yeah. And then Dickinson's on beam. That's another team to really look out for today. And Jamestown's on floor.
Now, did you say that they start maybe with the younger kids, go first and then work their way up?
Yeah, not as experienced, maybe not as confident. Oh, here Maddie is up on the vault.
Maddie Wendell.
Oh, that was a touch.
That was just a practice?
Yeah, they were cheering.
Do you get a couple?
Yep, you usually get 2 for vault or 30 seconds on other events.
Okay.
Just to warm up your skills a little bit before you compete.
Even though this is just a regular season meet, and is there still nerves going through?
There is nerves, especially because it's the first few meets. You haven't really gotten to your groove yet. You're still nervous. People watching you, having a crowd. Not the same as practice, but they'll handle it well.
And I know that Dickinson was a late ad. It was just going to be a try with Jamestown here in Grand Forks, and I think it was on Friday, a week ago today, that Dickinson was announced that they were going to be added. And I'm sure the Highliners, when they heard that brought the excitement level up a little bit.
Oh, yes. It's a little bit more nerve-wracking, but it's really fun to see other teams from the state. We never used to see Dickinson until state, which was we didn't like that as much because we didn't see how they were. But now we get to see them early in the season. It's exciting. And
maybe, like we were talking about earlier, you may not see all of their skills, but at least see what they have as far as a team.
Yeah, and it's a little more competitive, and it motivates you a little bit more seeing how good of skills they got.
And just practicing there. That was Zoe, I believe. Was that?
And she competed her first vault there. Just a little small step on the landing, but not bad. She's going to have another one right here.
What are just looking for on the vault?
Definitely the landing and like where your chest is. So if it's low, you're going to get a bigger deduction than if it's higher. And the big steps are what's going to get you.
Now this is the second vault coming up here for Zoe. And how about focus? Because you see now Zoe was kind of glancing over at the floor. Is it tough to stay focused on your event?
Yes, especially if floor's going. It's such a fun event. So, but the judges are still judging, so she's got a few minutes or a few seconds.
Zoe Bjerke is next up here. This will be her second vault that she has here for the Highliners. Again, Dickinson is on the beam. Jamestown is on the floor. And the Grand Forks Night Riders are working on the bars. That is the first rotation. And here goes Zoe in her second vault.
Oh, and she tried for an upgrade there, but fell. She's still happy. She's happy with it.
She tried a what now?
She tried to do a full instead of a half of what, she was doing a half before. But she'll work on that, and that's an upgrade. She was perfectly fine with her first one, so she went for the second one, which was an upgrade. It was a good attempt.
Do you get to throw one out?
Yes, you do. Yep. Okay. They take the best score.
All right. Now Grace Undum is next up for the Highliners here on the vault. How many gymnasts for each team will compete? 5 or 6?
You can have up to 8, I think, at this meet. But not a lot of teams use all 8.
Okay.
I think we're probably only going to use 5.
And then you take 4?
Yep, you take the best 4 scores.
Best 4 scores. So here's Grace Undum now on the vault for the Highliners, and here's her first.
I think she's on her touch.
Okay, yep.
It gets confused. Oh, awesome. She's going to compete a soup today.
Yeah.
That's exciting to see. That's a big upgrade from her. She did a front handspring full last, so.
The last meet, the Highliners that they had here this year, they were at in Fargo at American Gold Gym, and I want to say 137 is what they scored for the Highliners in that first meet. But I know it was Coach Tobler said he was really happy with that first meet out and what they scored.
Yeah, especially for not having as many practices and having at the first meet so many nerves. They performed very well, and I think they got first.
Yep. Now Maddie, looks like Maddie Wendell's next up. So Maddie Wendell is next up on the vault. And again, when we get to some of the top gymnasts in a certain event from the other schools, we'll also jump in and look and watch them as they perform. And again, if you're just joining us, this is Highliner Gymnastics. We got Dickinson, Jamestown, Grand Forks, and the Highliners here at the Youth Sports Complex. And it is the first home meet of the season for Valley City. And here goes Maddie Wendell.
Solid performance. There was barely a step on that landing. I couldn't see one, but
I didn't see one either.
That was awesome. She'll be happy with that.
And she has Coach Tobler is working, say a couple of things to her as she gets back now, getting ready for her second event. And again, this is the first meet of the year where you have some of the best gymnasts in the state all in one facility. We got the top 3 teams with Valley City, Dickinson, and Jamestown. Easily the top 8 gymnasts in the state. 5 of them are probably from Dickinson. The other 3, you could probably throw in 2 from Valley City. Of course, with Abby Thornton, who finished 3rd last year, and Karina Olson, the other 2 gymnasts here for Valley City that are in that top 5, top 8 in the state. Here goes Maddie in her second attempt. Here on the vault. Little twist there at the end.
And she fell back on the vault, so they'll definitely take her first vault, which was good. She's happy with that score. It should be good.
On the vault, you want to get a good speed going. I'm assuming getting off to with that running start is crucial.
Oh yeah, to get momentum for the vault, and especially if you're doing a flipping like Abby does, you need that power from that run. And you can see Zoe Bierke scored an 8-1.
And there's the looking for the scores, and there it is right over there. I was trying to find I was looking for the electronic ones. We're not that upgrade here yet.
Not yet.
But we're getting there.
And you can see Karina warming up for the vault. So back again with the order. Usually the less experienced ones go first,
yep.
Or the ones who don't have as much confidence or not as big of a skill level go first, and then the more advanced ones go last, which should help the scores out. Mm-hmm. That's the coach's theory.
Right. That's the strategy behind it.
That's a strategy.
Grace Undham looks like she is going to set here and make would be her first attempt. Or would this be her second?
It's her first.
She
had touches before, yep.
So it is her first event, her first attempt here on the vault. Jamestown is working on the floor. Dickinson again on the beam, and the Grand Forks Knight Riders, combination of Central and Grand Forks Red River, they are on the uneven bars. Those would scare me.
They are a little scary.
I could do the beam. I mean, I've got decent balance, but the bars, no, thank you.
No, the beam's the scariest one.
But there's all that padding.
Yeah, until you hit the hard beam on the way down.
I suppose, yes, that's true. That's true.
Grace is going up now. And she's competing in Souk Tuck. That is an upgrade for her, so not perfect yet. That was a close landing, though. She seems happy. Maddie scored an 8.8. I think that is higher than her last meet in Fargo, so that's good.
Again, the Highliners had about a 137 at that Fargo meet earlier this year. It was about a week ago. And some other teams, I think, that did compete in that meet in Fargo on the 3rd. I think
Grace is going for her second attempt right now. And she's going to try that Souk again. Oh, dang, not this time. Maybe next time, though. Great attempts from her.
as far as on your landing, does it matter if you're facing the vault or away? Would they prefer one or the other?
Nope, it just depends what kind of vault you're doing. But that vault might look like it hurt. No, I think it's softer padding for the first few meets, so that's awesome for her to be able to try that Souk without a hard landing.
So now for the Highliners. Looks like maybe Abby might be coming up next, getting her
touch in.
Yep. I was going to say practice touches. That's what it is.
Yep.
They're gimme.
Yeah. There you go. And the harder the vault usually, so you're going to see Abby's going to go right now doing a flipping vault. That's harder than one of those that you saw earlier, and those are going to start at a way higher start value. And so I think that starts at like a 9.8 if she's doing a pike, but a 10.0 if she does a layout.
And then they start deducting from there?
Yep. But then I think like Maddie Wendell and Maddie Wendell's vault is going to start like at a 9.4. And so there's a few tenths between them two, which is going to cause their scores to be a little bit lower.
And I'm assuming DD isn't part of that, and that's, of course, degree of difficulty.
Yeah, yes.
Because the judges know what they're going to do, correct?
Yep. The coach tells them before on vault.
Okay,
they
on
tell
vault.
them before.
Okay.
They go, but not any other event.
Right, but on vault they let them know what they're going to try.
Yep.
Because then they have something to look for.
Yes. It's a lot quicker than any other event, so
okay.
It makes it easier on the judges.
This is coverage of the Highliner Gymnastics meet here at the Youth Sports Complex, Dickinson. They are currently on the beam and on the bars. Whoop, here goes Abby.
I think that's her touch again, yep.
Yep, that was
very good touch, though.
That was a little bit better landing,
yeah.
But not as much in the actual vault.
Yep. It's been a while since they warmed up, probably 2 hours, so they're just getting used to things again. And I think Karina's up next.
So Karina Olsen will be next up. She is poised for her. Now this will probably be her first vault because she's already done a touch.
Yep, yes. And it looks like Grace got a 8.175. These scores are not finalized. The runners could have made a mistake. Good vault by Karina. She had a small step on the landing, which would probably be a few tenths of a deduction, but not bad, a controlled step.
And the runners get the scores from the judges, bring them over here to the table.
Yep, and they're young, so.
There might be a mistake.
Yeah, so the scores aren't finalized, but at the end they will be.
They will at the end?
Yep.
Again, they will do 2 rotations. After the second rotation, we'll have a little bit of a break. And then back for the second half. Now here's Karina Olsen in her second vault.
Yes. And we'll see if this one's an upgraded version or not. She usually tries it if her first one's good. She'll go for an upgrade for the second one.
And Johnny is telling the judges probably what she's going to attempt. Johnny Tober, head coach for the Highliners in his third season. Second season. Second season.
Yep.
All right, judges they're making some notations here. I suppose that's tough too, sitting there waiting.
Oh yeah, it gets your nerves going. You have a lot more time to think about your skills. And she tries an upgrade, and she falls into the pit. But it was a good attempt. She got all the way around, just couldn't find that landing.
One thing you got to like, though, is even if they don't get that landing, they're smiling.
Oh, yeah, especially for the second attempt. You already got the first score in. She just gave it a go and tried her best. And
yep. It's like, well, I'm going to try something here.
Yeah, which is awesome to be able to try on a soft surface. And second attempt when your first one was already good. And it's early in the season still. So here, try that upgrade already is awesome.
Only the second meet for the Highliners. They'll have the blue and white again here on Monday, and obviously a break for the holidays. And it looks like Valley City will have, looks like they'll take time off till after the first of the year before they'll be back involved. There's a meet coming up in Wahpeton on the 19th, but the Highliners will not be part of that. Jamestown's hosting one on the 8th. I think we usually go over to the one in Jamestown a couple of times during the year.
We usually do, yes. And it looks like we're going to talk about Grace's score quick. 8.175. She did have 2 falls on both of her skills, so that's why it's so low.
Okay.
It's a 5/10 deduction usually, and her chest was a little bit low, so if she can land that, it's going to be in the 9s later in the season.
Here comes Abby Thornton next up for the Highliners on the vault.
and I think she's competing in her Chanko layout, which is huge. It's an upgrade from last meet. She didn't even compete this last year, so this is awesome. It's going to be a big vault. Here she goes.
There's a deep breath and away.
Look at her powerful run. She needs that for this great vault. Oh, very great shape in the air. Just touched her hands on the landing. She has another try to get that down. And it looks like Karina scored a 9.0, which is an awesome vault.
Very good.
Which is an awesome score for her vault. And with her other vault that she fell on, if she competes out later in the season and lands it, it will be even higher than a 9. So that's great for the team's score all around, and it'll do a lot for the team.
So Abby Thornton will have her second vault coming up here. So we've had Zoe, Maddie, Grace, Karina, and now Abby.
And she is the last one to go. So we'll be done a lot earlier than all the other girls, but...
That's probably one of the quickest events, isn't
Oh,
it?
yeah. Quick judging, quick turn.
Here she goes, Abby Thornton on her second attempt on the vault.
Awesome. Barely a step on the landing. That was giant in the air. Her body was flat, so that's a layout. It's going to start at a 10.
So she'll take the second one.
Yes. Oh, 100%. Yep.
And while we wait to see her score, just want to say our judges on the vault: Grace Anderson, Sheila Anderson on the bars, Rachel Woodley, the beam, Lori Julian, and Olivia Olson, and on the floor is Katie Anderson, our judges here this evening.
Okay, we're going to turn our attention to the floor where Jamestown's going. And we're going to wait for Abby's score to come up. It looks like it's going to come up soon. I believe this is Brenna Hatch on floor. She was a top competitor on floor as well. It doesn't look like any of Jamestown's scores are in the rankings yet, so we couldn't double check that. But Abby's got a 9.55. That has been her best score yet, I think.
Yep.
And last year, career high.
For the junior, a 9.55. Good job there by Abby Thornton.
That was her first time ever attempting that vault in competition, so that's a great start for the season.
So just, because math is such a strong skill of mine, looks like because they'll take the top four scores. So 26, I'm going to say around a 35.9 or 34.9 for the Highlanders would be my guess. You are the expert, so I'll let you let me know how close I am.
34.825.
That's it. So that's what
that's an awesome vault score.
That's a very good vault score. So the Highlanders 34.825. And again, when we talk about the rankings are score-based. It's not one of these coaches think that's the best person or think that that's the best team. The rankings are based on their scores that they have throughout the year, and I think you need at least 3 competitions and 3 meets before they'll start doing the rankings.
Yeah, before you need at least 3 competitions to be even qualified for the state meet. So we try to get scores in right away, so there's not pressure at the end of the meet or at the end of the season to get into the top teams.
Dickinson right now, they are on the beam. And you look there, they have 5 of the top 6 in the state are from the Dickinson. Riley Olson is top. She's just a sophomore. And Addison Fitterer, another sophomore. And you look there, too. You look at their 5 that are in the top 6. Sophomore, junior, 7th grader, 8th grader. So
they have many years to get good and perfect their skills and upgrade. Built a great program.
When people talk about gymnastics in the state of North Dakota, and for those of you that are maybe new to it, but you maybe know wrestling, Bismarck High, always right there in the state in wrestling. Same thing with Dickinson Gymnastics. They're kind of the benchmark in the state.
Oh, yes, yeah. And then usually second, third, fourth, like varies between year. But we're usually in the top.
We were third 2 years ago,
yeah.
second last year. And I think we've been in the top 5 for the last handful of years, probably ever since when you started.
Yes. And in the East, we're usually 1 or 2. I think we're on a streak of 3.
Yeah, 3 in a row. Three EDC meets championships in a row.
And before that, I think it was 5.
Okay. So Highlander Gymnastics right up there, statewide. So Jamestown, again, performing on the floor. And Dickinson, they'll be close to finishing up their routines here on the beam. Highlanders have already finished up on the vault. Again, a 34.825. And really, like you had said, that's kind of unofficial.
Yeah,
We'll get the official numbers after everything is completed. But right now, 34.825 for the Highlanders. And do all of the gymnasts, you hear the all-around. That means they're going to be on every one of the events. Do the Highlanders have everybody do everything or not?
This year we do because we have such a small team right now.
Mm-hmm.
But in earlier years, we've had event specialists, is what you'd call them, when we've had a bigger team, more than 8 usually.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll specifically do certain events and perfect those during practice, still work the other events, but they do the events they're best at. Or if you're not ready for an event this early in the season, a lot of teams are probably holding off a few girls because they're not ready, but we're doing all around. So all of us are doing all around.
And before we go any further, we do also want to remind you, if you are enjoying this, on our website, Highlanders.org, you go to Highlanders.org, you'll see the little live icon and live button. You click on that, that'll take you to the play site and show you all of the events that we have. And if you're watching this, also we want to thank our sponsors. We have, of course, Dickey Roll Network, Essentia Health, and also the boosters, the Valley City Booster Club, that helped us out, the Highlander Activity Network, and so we appreciate their help in getting all this on the air and getting these on the air. So it's going to be this is going to be a fun night. I mean, we're just kind of getting things started. When do things start getting interesting? Around the third rotation?
Oh yeah, things start to get close, and the fourth rotation, especially during state or something, when you see all you actually have the scores right in front of you, it gets fun. Very competitive. Very competitive.
I know last year during the state meet, I was able to have the live scoring on there, biting your fingernails as you're following along. And so it is, and it's just, this is my first foray into doing a gymnastics play. How am I doing?
You're doing good, yeah.
Am I okay?
Yep.
Okay. I knew you were going to be fine because you know this stuff. So we have, after this first rotation, is it clockwise, counterclockwise, or?
It's usually in Olympic order, so I think they'll go to bars next, then beam, then floor.
Okay. So the floor will be last for the Highlanders.
Yes.
Okay.
Which is exciting because it's the most fun usually, and everyone gets into it, so it's a fun one to end on. Not as nerve-wracking.
Not as nerve-wracking, because now it looks like Dickinson will be moving over to the
floor next.
Yep. And then the Highlanders are making their way over to the beam, or to the bars.
Bars, yeah.
So that is the next rotation. Jamestown to vault.
Yes, and then
Grand Forks will be on the beam.
Yep. And Grand Forks has already finished bars kind of a while ago, so they're just sitting waiting for Dickinson to get done.
And that's, again, that's, like I said, as far as that's the hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
Frustrating?
Yeah, I just kind of like getting things going, just keep continuously going from next event to next event, and having that waiting period, it's hard on an athlete because then you have time to think and get nervous, especially before beam. It's already nerve-wracking, first of all, so having that wait period before.
And if you're coming off a good event and you're excited, you're juiced up, and now you got to sit and wait.
Yeah, yep. You don't get to really take that momentum over to the next event, but they'll make it work.
Now the bars are next up for the Highliners. And now when you talk about the least experienced to the experienced, is that also based on if that's your event? So as we saw, maybe Grace Sundom and Maddie Wendell and Zoe Birkey. Will that change, or will that be the order for this?
It varies from event to event. Like Maddie Wendell's bar routine, I think, is one of the better ones on the team. And she's more experienced. She is more confident on that event, so I think she'll go later in the rotation. Abby and Karina are older, more experienced, have been doing high school gymnastics and gymnastics in general for many years. So they'll be at the end of almost every rotation.
Right now, just waiting for and they wait before a team is done with their event before they start the next rotation.
Yep, because we don't want to get too backed up on one event and then have the team waiting there forever. So
right now, Dickinson is still finishing up on the ball, and I think Jamestown's still going on the floor, but I think they're just about done on the floor.
There should be about 1 or 2 people left.
And for Dickinson, I think this
3.
is number. I think they have 2 more after this gymnast. I'm guessing. I've been paying attention.
So we're almost done with this rotation. So then we'll start warming up.
Then we'll start warming. And then do you get a 5-minute warm-up?
It's actually 30 seconds per person.
Per person, okay.
But you can combine times, and it could be like 2.5 minutes if you wanted to.
Okay. But you do get a little bit of a warm-up before you get in for the judging portion of it. Again, you are watching the Highliner Gymnastics meet here from the Youth Sports Complex on the Highliner Activity Network. Paul McDonald along with Chauncey Krewald joining you here this evening. Our first gymnastics meet of the season. We've got the blue and white meet coming up on Monday as well. And, of course, that's always a fun, stressless meet, if you will.
Let's make our way to floor. Julia is on floor right now.
For Jamestown. So Jamestown right now on the floor. And again, Jamestown's numbers are not in the system either. They have not had any of their scores put out there. But we'll let you know who the gymnasts are that are out and competing.
Yes, Julia Scari is on floor right now, and she was one of the top performers last year, and she is only, I believe, a 9th or 10th grader.
Okay.
So she has many years to come. Solid athlete since she was a 7th grader.
And that is, again, that's something we've talked about. Is gymnastics is one of those sports where your 7th graders, your 8th graders, they are an integral part of your varsity. It's not just your juniors and seniors. And Julia Scari wrapping up her routine on the floor. I love technology until it bites back.
Yeah, the internet in here isn't working with us.
It's extremely slow. We're getting to it. We're be patient. We're getting to it here with our with the internet. Again, the Highliners have already finished up on the vault. They had a team unofficial 34.825 is what they had on the vault. Again, we just talked to Julia Scari. She is a 9th grader.
Young. Wow.
Yeah, well, young for you, because you're an old lady now. You're a freshman in college.
I am. But she is very strong as a freshman. That is awesome to see.
The Dickinson on their 4th gymnast here on the beam.
Yeah, let's head that way. And I think this is Riley Olson up next. And I believe she is one of the top.
I think on the beam she's number 1.
Yes, ranked so far as a 10th grader.
Yeah, she is number 1 on the beam. A sophomore, average 9.5 in her one of her meets. So here's Riley Olson from the Dickinson Midgets on the beam.
Okay, this is actually Aspen Normal. She is an 8th grader, and at the end of a rotation, she is one of the last ones to go. That's very nerve-wracking as an 8th grader. She's been doing this for 1 year. So that's great to see.
So I'm going to guess if she is the second to last, Riley may be the last. If she has already gone.
Amy also has to go.
And Amy Fridley.
And let's head to floor because Haley Nelson is up. And she is, I think she finished third in the all-around last year.
Haley, a senior.
Yes, she is a senior this year.
The only senior on the Jamestown team.
Correct, yeah. Solid performance so far by Haley. She seems very confident on the floor, and she seems like she's having a lot of fun. And it looks like Dickinson does have 3 athletes to go, so I'm assuming they used all 8 spots up.
And obviously that's advantageous. If you've got 8 athletes going on each event and you're taking half of the scores, that's really a very big advantage for your team.
Oh, yeah, and having such a big team, not as much pressure. Multiple people can fall before you count their scores, but Valley only has 5 people, so
yep.
It's a lot more nerve-wracking when you can only lose 1 score. And Haley just finished up floor, so it's going to be cool to see her score. It's going to be very high. And Julia Scari scored a 9.3, which is very big.
And again, the floor is they don't know, the judges don't know what you're going to do in your routine. Does it start, obviously everything starts at 10, right?
No, it starts at a 9.2, and you can get bonus from there. But if you don't get all of your requirements, it goes down from a 9.2, so you can get even lower. But you can get bonus by connections or difficulty, and that's why you'll see a lot of gymnasts doing many connections routine and making it harder than usual. And Haley scored a 9.4, so she probably started at a 10-0, which is big. That's a great score for Jamestown.
So 9.4 for Haley Olson on the floor exercise for Jamestown. Now back here on the vault. Dickinson still finishing up on the vault. Jamestown's wrapped up on the floor. So we just have one event going on right now, and that's the Dickinson Midgets here on the vault, or on the beam, pardon me. And team scores will be totaled up after each rotation. And after the second rotation, they'll have a 10-minute break. Then we'll try to get some numbers for you, crunch some numbers, and see if we can't give you where the teams are at through the second rotation. And then be back to start the third rotation tonight. And Dickinson was a late add. No, hand touching the beam.
She touched the beam, so that is less than a fall, way better than a fall, actually. 3/10 instead of 5, and the skill gets counted, I believe.
Okay.
And in the warm-up, she actually fell on that, so that's awesome to see her land that in the competition.
The concentration level's got to be huge.
And it's silent in here, and it's super quiet.
It is. I don't want to say anything.
I know, I don't want to be too loud.
Because we're right in front of the beam. Nice landing, too. And that will wrap up. I think that has, they still have a couple more ready to go here.
I still think they have 3 gymnasts left to compete. So beam's a little bit slower, longer. The judging takes a little bit longer, so.
Is there a time limit or no?
Yes, I think it's 1:30, 90 seconds maybe. And if you don't, you get a deduction. So.
Okay.
And if you hear the bell ring, it will ring twice, and you have to get off the beam.
Okay.
And if you aren't off the beam by that time, you'll get a deduction.
Okay.
But usually gymnasts try to get on and off the beam as quick as possible. So.
That comes from experience?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So they really have to get their skills condensed in a small amount of time.
Not as much dance as floor at all. Excited about that one. It looks like Elizabeth Karski is up next on beam.
And this is a 7th grader.
7th grader, yes.
And you see a lot of gymnasts' ankles, knees wrapped, hamstrings. You got a lot of bandages, taping going on.
Yeah, and usually you don't see it as much earlier in the season, but later in the season, almost every gymnast has something going on. But it was awesome to see Haley Nelson didn't have any ankles taped, and I know she's had ankle problems in the past, so that was great to see. And Abby Thornton also used to tape her ankles, and she doesn't anymore, so that means she's healed up and ready to go.
Of course, Abby had I want to say wrist or arm last year that kept her out of spring sports.
Oh, yeah.
For a little while. And then was able to get back playing softball a little later on in the season.
Yeah, she broke her wrist, I think.
Yeah, I think that's what it was, yeah.
Yeah, and she's broke her ankle, and she's had a handful of injuries, but has healed up well.
For gymnastics, Chassie, there are other sports that gymnastics helps you at?
Oh, yes. Yeah, gymnastics has helped me in so many of my other sports, and I've seen it in other girls that just starting out in gymnastics at a young age, getting that hand-eye coordination down, has helped them succeed in many of the other sports they do.
And libero during volleyball season.
Yeah. And gymnastics has helped me so much with that. Just strength, conditioning, endurance.
Balance.
It's an overall great sport.
So Elizabeth Karski, the 7th grader, here for Dickinson on the beam. Again, we're just waiting for Dickinson to wrap up their beam, and then we'll get into our second rotation. As you mentioned, they wait till the teams are done with their rotation, and then they'll start the warm-up and then the competition when they get into the next rotation. And after the second rotation, we'll have a break, kind of a halftime, if you will, and we'll try to get some team scores totaled up for you and see where we're sitting after the first two rotations.
Very solid connection on a backhand, and she connected that, so that's going to add to her bonus, which will increase her start value. A little wobble on that full turn, but she saved it well, covered it up. Fell that side semi, but is going to get up. And I don't think she's going to do it again. Nope, she's just going to continue on with the routine. And you can hear the music in the background, which helps a lot. Not as silent, not everyone watching you.
Yeah.
Just, ooh, very pretty. Awesome recovery.
Dismount coming?
Yes, here it is. And at this point, you're just relieved to get off the beam. Very good dismount. That was awesome. Great finish by her.
So we'll see if we have one more. Yep, we're going to have at least one more, maybe two more from Dickinson coming up here on the beam. And they've already done their warm-up, or do they get a little bit of a warm-up here too?
The girl on beam right now is just doing her touch, so she gets 30 seconds.
Okay.
Yep, and then after the 30 seconds, another girl's going to go, and then she's going to be up right after her.
Right.
So it's just a quick touch before you have to go compete.
That was a nice.
And I think she's going to upgrade that into her routine, so that's going to be a cool skill to see.
We're watching the beam, the last event here in the first rotation. The Dickinson Midgets are on the beam. And you look at the state rankings in the beam. Addison Bitterer is top. Actually, she is number 2. I believe Riley Olson, we were talking about, is number 1 in the state. Yeah, Riley Olson.
And I think she is up next. And she usually scores a 9.5, and that's a really big score for beam because every little wobble is a 10th off. And so seeing a 9.5, that's 5/10 off. That's almost a perfect routine. And usually this early in the season, you're a little shaky and wobbly, so you'll see a little more falls than later in the season. But so far, they're doing good. Looks like Riley Olson is up now. Small wobble to begin with, but she seems calm. As you see, she touched her hand in the middle of that series, so that won't count. So that means she doesn't get her event requirement unless she redoes the series. And that's only 2/10 if you don't do a series in your routine, but that hand touch is going to be 3.
There are some requirements, though, correct?
Yes. Like usually a jump, turn, you have to have a connected series and a dismount and a mount. But you can always build up your connections from there to get a 10.0 start value. Very great jump she just did right there. That maybe doesn't look difficult, but that is hard. She takes her eyes off the beam for like a half a second and still landed it, so that's awesome. And here her dismount is. Solid routine for Riley. Maybe not exactly what she was looking for with the series, but she ended very great.
Probably going to be close to that 9.5, 9.4.
Maybe not since she got her series, be lower nines, but
lower nines.
Still a 9 on beam is awesome. We'll have to see what it is.
And this Dickinson team, there's a handful of these gymnasts that are going to college to do this.
Yes.
That are looking, I believe Amy Fridley is one, Riley Olson another, are collegiate bound to, or are at that level.
Yeah, and Abby Thornton really wants to do college gymnastics, and it's going to be exciting to see where they end up. And their journey is going to be super exciting. There was just in the news that 3 AGG gymnasts, seniors, just committed to 3 different NCAA schools. And I think that was the most AGG's ever let go in a class, 3. Mm-hmm. So that's awesome to see. That's crazy.
AGG?
One went to Nebraska. Okay. One went to Central Michigan.
Okay.
And I don't know where the other one went, but those are 2 very good schools to go to.
Big Ten is very in gymnastics. Big Ten schools, Pac-12 are 2 of the conferences that are right up there as far as gymnastics are concerned. And, of course, people may remember, speaking of Dickinson, Robin Huebner was a Dickinson midget, went to the University of Minnesota, and would have been an Olympian from North Dakota, but was injured her senior year and was not able to make the Olympic trials.
That is crazy. That is such a high level. The best of the best. That is a great accomplishment to even get close to that.
And I know that for a fact because she is the niece of my brother-in-law. So that's why I know that. And talk about the Dickinson gymnastics, and there's somebody from, I won't say how many years. Well, she's not listed. 40 years ago.
It looks like Riley Olson scored a 9 or an 8.5.
8.5.
So lower than usual, but she didn't get that connection for her series, and she touched her hand. So not exactly what she was looking for, but she's got it next meet.
Again, we mentioned 5 out of the top 6 in the state on the beam are from Dickinson as of right now. But again, once teams start getting scores put in, that will change because I believe the Highliners too have Abby and Karina are in the top 10 in a lot of these events, but scores haven't been put in completed yet.
Yeah, and especially since we only have had 1 meet.
Yep.
He's not going to put them in right away, but after the second or third meet, they should be in, and it'll be cool, good to see where they're ranked.
This may be the final gymnast for Dickinson here on the beam. And then we'll have our second rotation. Could hear a pin drop, right?
It is quiet. The music's not loud enough. So it looks like Riley Olson scored an 8.875.
They just changed it, yep.
And maybe Elizabeth scored a 8.55?
8.5, yeah.
8.5.
This is Addison Fitterer, who's number 2 in the state on the beam behind teammate Riley Olson. She usually hits at around 9.6 in her last meet. There's her dismount.
Solid dismount.
Very good. Addison Fitterer, number 2. And the non-Dickinson gymnast that's in the top 6 is Allison Krug out of Bismarck. She is number 3 in the state. So there's your first rotation. So now teams will move on into their second rotation. We'll just step aside for a minute as the teams warm up and get ready for our second rotation. This is Highliner Gymnastics on the Highliner Activity Network. Paul McDonald along with Jessica Crewell back with you here at the Youth Sports Complex. Valley City Gymnastics, the first home meet of the season. Valley City taking on or inviting in Dickinson, Jamestown, and Grand Forks. The Highliners now on the bars, the uneven bars.
It looks like Zoe Bierke's up right now.
And having the bars that low and you're dragging your feet, is that difficult?
Yes, and it is a deduction, so we're going to try to eliminate that throughout the season. But she is a little bit of a taller gymnast, so it's going to be harder for her to keep her legs or her feet off the ground.
I'm guessing that was her touch.
No, that was actually her competition.
That was her routine.
Yep.
And on the bars, are there some requirements as well?
Yes, and I think they started at 9.2, and you can build up from there with difficulty, or if you don't meet all of the requirements, it goes lower than a 9.2.
Maddie Wendell now.
And some of the requirements are like a release move on bars, which you'll see from Karina and Abby, I believe, and Grace Undum, I think. Mm-hmm. And a circling element on bars. It looks like Dickinson's on floor, Grand Forks is on beam, and Jamestown is on vault. And I think they've all started competing as well.
So right in front of us is the beam, and the Highliners over off to our left. On the bars, to the right, the floor exercise. This is rotation number 2. Again, after the completion of this rotation, we'll have about a 10-minute break. And then we'll be back, and we'll give you a update of where we're standing after that second rotation. Now, obviously, once they're competing, can you still have a spotter?
No. Someone can stand there. Johnny is standing there right now for Maddie Wendell, and that is allowed. But if you do get touched by your coach, it is a 5-10 deduction, which is a fall. And so he had his hand right behind her back but did not touch her, so that's no deduction, and that's perfectly fine.
Next up will be Grace Undum.
It doesn't look like she'll be doing her release move today. I'm wondering if it didn't count during the last meet, because I saw Johnny Tobler and the judge talking before or after her bar routine. So she'll have to switch things up a little bit. Routine by Grace. Great start on bar. She got her Giants round, which she didn't do a lot last year because it was so new, but she was training hard over the summer and finally got those clean.
The next up will be Karina Olsen will be next for the Highliners.
I believe she's touching right now.
Yep. And the Night Riders from Grand Forks, combination of Red River and Central. They're on the beam. Dickinson warming up on the floor. And Jamestown will be on the vault next in this second rotation.
Let's switch to vault right now. I think we're going to see some flipping vaults here from Jamestown. A lot of new flipping vaults from them. And I think this is a touch from Jamestown right now.
Again, the Jays don't have all of their scores on, so we don't have how each individual has done. But of course, Jamestown Gymnastics, Dave Taves has stepped aside as after being there for 100 years, 40 years actually. I think he was around that, head coach for Jamestown Gymnastics. Andrea Bitz is now kind of taken over as the head coach, and she's been his assistant for about 5-6 years. But Dave has really done a great job building that program in Jamestown. I think Andrea was last year was mistaken for one of the gymnasts.
Yeah, probably. She blends in quite well.
Oh, no, I'll try not to dance with this song playing. It looked like Riley Olsen on,
I think that
Elizabeth.
is the twin of Elizabeth, so I think that is Anna.
Anna.
We can head over to floor.
Anna Karski.
Yeah, they have 2 7th grade twins on their team, and they're both solid gymnasts.
Over on the floor again, that is the other Karski, the twin sister of Elizabeth.
Come on, Anna!
Maddie Wendell on bars now. Let's head over to bars. Calm the nerves by laughing.
Yep.
Here she goes. Maddie has really improved over the summer on this event, and it's became one of her stronger events this season. New pirouette there, which is big. That's awesome to see. This is also new to her routine. Just misses it. And it's still fresh. It's a fresh skill for her early in the season. It's not going to be perfect yet. Not as consistent as she's hoping. But practice makes perfect.
Getting that chalk for the grip, does that really enhance your grip?
Oh, it does. It does. By the end of the routine, not as much chalk's left on your grip, so taking that break to go calm your nerves and re-chalk is helpful. I think she's going to try it again. Yeah, here she goes. And she makes it her second time, which is awesome.
And really needs that momentum to get that dismount.
I think she's trying to eliminate those tap swings in the middle, but because those are deduction, I think it's 3/10 per swing. So it's going to deduct a lot of off her score, but the more she works on it, and there's going to be less fear there, and she'll go for it later in the season.
Abby Thornton and Karina Olsen still yet to go for the highliners on the balance, uneven bars. That was Maddie Wendell that just finished up on hers.
And I think Abby is touching right now, and then Karina's up.
So up comes Abby Thornton for her touch on the unevens. We're in our second rotation. And after this rotation is complete, we'll get the team scores. See where we're at through our first half. Now here comes Abby Thornton on her touch. Not happy with that.
I believe she's going to touch twice because it's 30 seconds or 2 touches on the bar. So I think she'll go back up and do her dismount before Karina goes
Well,
on
it
the
looked
bar.
like when she got on the lower bar, she hit the floor, and that might have maybe kind of stopped a bit.
Yeah, stopped all of her momentum, and it wasn't what she was looking for. She's going to re-chalk up and try her dismount again. Karina's getting a few extra coaching tips before she goes on the bar, which is always super helpful and seems to calm your nerves a little bit. Thinks about specific skills instead of the whole routine.
So Abby Thornton will be getting back again. This is just her touch. It was at that spot where she hit the floor and redo. Another tall gymnast.
Yeah. She wants to try to keep her feet, slow her momentum from her bail just enough to slow her or to get a kip. And that is new from last week. She did not do that last week. She did a full, but I'm glad to see the double back in the routine.
Now Karina Olson will check in and do her touch, or she's actually competing. Would this be her?
Yep, she's competing.
Yeah,
now.
this would be her actual routine.
It's always confusing with the touches and the competing. You never know what they're doing.
They don't tell me. It's just a touch. Lauren, go ahead.
The bail is new to Karina's routine this year. She hasn't competed it ever in any season, I don't think.
Okay.
So it's an awesome upgrade. It's her release move, so she'll get that requirement, and it's going to have her start a lot higher than she usually did.
Rachel Woodley is the judge here on the bars. There is Karina Olson off for the Highliners.
Awesome bail. She kept her feet up, so that's no deduction. That was the best I've seen her do today. And hitting those handstands so she doesn't get any deductions from those. Very clean routine so far. And adds a stuck dismount to the end. That was the best routine job I think she's ever done. You can see she's very happy with it.
So good routine by Karina Olson. And Abby Thornton is yet to compete.
I believe that's a full, I think that's a 10.0 start value or pretty close because she has her dismount, which is very hard, and her bail, and she kept her feet up and all those connections with the handstands. I think she has a 10.0 start value, which is what you aim for in every single routine.
And we're waiting for the judge to tally her numbers. Abby Thornton will be next on the beam for the Highliners. Dickinson on the floor again in this rotation. Grand Forks on the beam, and Jamestown on the vault. Highliners on the bars.
It looks like Maddie 7.4, and with those with no swings later in the season, it should be way higher than that. So that's a great start. And with a full, that's pretty good.
That is good.
I did not catch Zoe and Grace's scores. We'll update with you those, or with those.
We'll get those
later.
after the on the end of the rotation. Because again, the Highlanders will be done here with theirs before the other teams are finishing their events. Now they're going to be putting up Karina's number.
It should be a big one. I don't want to jinx it though.
It's a 9-4.
That is an awesome score for Karina. Here Abby goes. Tapped her feet a little bit on the bail, but not as bad during warm-up, so that's better. Hitting those handstands, which is great. Her double back goes. Perfect. Awesome ending. She's happy with that too. That's a great rotation for the Highliners. Very good bars.
So again, 9-4 for Karina Olson. And now we'll await Abby's scores. They tally that up. And that will finish up the Highliners on the bars.
Yeah, let's head over to floor. And Elizabeth Karski is actually up right now, so perfect timing.
Number 7 in the state on the floor.
Yes, solid routines. Solid 1.5 from Elizabeth Karski. Tumbling passes. If you can get all your difficulty in 2, that's great, but most athletes have 3. And it looks like Maddie with a 7.4 on bars. Karina got a 9.4. Grace got an 8.2. And Zoe got a 7.6. That's what we're looking at, I think. Those aren't official, though.
Yeah, again, these numbers are not official. Abby's going up, 9.2 for Abby Thornton.
Solid score. Having a 9 on bars is very difficult. That's great to see 2 athletes from Highliners have both 9s.
Looks like a 34.4 unofficially with my quick Moorhead math. So again, that was the Highliners on the beam. Now they are off because now there is the 10-minute break after this rotation is complete. Again, 9.2 was what Abby Thornton came up with. They take the top 4 out of those 5 for each event. Highliners about a 35 on their vault.
Yeah, Highlanders got a 35.525, so better than we've said before. So that's a great vault score. And then a 34.4 on bars. And usually vault scores are a little bit higher, so that 35 is about average. And bars might seem a little bit lower, but usually teams score a little bit lower on the bars and beam than 4 in vault. So 34.4 is a good start.
So unofficially, 69.925 for the Highliners in their first 2 rotations. So halfway through on a pace for a 138. On pace.
Yep. Which would be better than their last 2 events or last meet.
Did a 137 in Fargo.
But beam is next, and that's a hard one for Valley. So we're trying to get through it with no falls, and we can drop 1 score.
Who would you say is the favorite, or the I guess the word for the Highliners? The beam is their best event.
I think Karina is the best event is beam, but the Highlanders are very close between Abby and Karina on all 4 events. And the other 3 Highlanders are good on their individual events, and they have upgrades coming later in the season, so we should see plenty higher scores from them. And
being with only 5, maybe Maddie, Zoe, Grace, maybe were event specialists last year or the year before, but now they're asked to do everything.
When we had more athletes in gymnastics. Well, it looks like we have a big team this year, but a lot of them are new and starting out in gymnastics, just getting their skills ready, hopefully to go later in the season. But yeah, we only have 5 right now, so all athletes do have to compete all 4 events if they're ready.
This is the Highliner Invitational, Dickinson, Jamestown, Grand Forks, and Valley City Gymnastics here from the Youth Sports Complex. Paul McDonald along with Chauncey Crewell joining us here tonight from the Youth Sports Complex. Again, we've got the blue and white meet coming up on Monday night. So after this competition, they'll get a couple of days off, and then the blue and white on Monday.
It looks like Elizabeth Karski scored a 9.0 on floor, which is a good score. And let's head over to vault, and we're going to see some flipping vaults. from Jamestown. Oh.
Oh, almost.
And she fell into the pit, so I don't know if that was a touch. Okay, it was just a touch, so we're good. She has another shot. That's what the downfall is for having a pit right by the landing spot. We usually go the other direction, but this early in the season we don't want to hurt ankles, and so we go on the softer landing, but the pit's right next to it. So
that's full of styrofoam.
yeah, it sometimes happens where you fall into it.
And this is Addison Fitterer on the floor right now for Dickinson. Addison, number 5th in the state in that routine. Another case where Dickinson has 7 of the top 10 gymnasts in the state on the floor. And I want to say last year at the state tournament, at the state meet, that was their biggest event that really led them, because I think Valley City was very close in the other 3 events, but on the floor, that's where Dickinson really took the leadership.
Very strong on floor. They're strong on all events, but floor is their good event. Great event.
Well, when you have 7 of the top 10 in the state, yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
The non-Dickinson is Joni Lee from Legacy is ranked 4th. Allison Krug from Bismarck is 6th. And Kelsey Earhart from Fargo South is number 8. And, you know, we talk about Dickinson's dominance in recent years, but in the early stages of gymnastics in the 70s and maybe go into the 80s, Fargo South had a very strong gymnastics team and gymnastics program. Jim Simley is the name of the gentleman that was the head coach, and he also was a big part of the FM Acro team. People may be familiar with the FM Acro team. If you've never seen them perform, you got to watch them perform. I'm sure they got stuff on YouTube, and the FM Acro team, of course, was known that they would go to a lot of NBA All-Star games.
They're amazing.
They are an incredible show team, and but Coach Simley really had a great program at Fargo South, and are one of the tops in the states for many years. And now Dickinson has kind of taken that mantle, and South, I think, is actually combined along with North and Shanley, and have one big team.
We're going to quickly jump to vault, and Blair Arbuckle is going to compete.
From Jamestown.
Oh, when she fell, it looks like she missed her feet, didn't really know where she was going to know where the floor was, but she has another shot to make it.
Come on, Riley.
And coach has given her a couple of pointers there.
Yeah, it just looked like she was really high and just stayed in the tuck position for a little bit longer than she should have. But it was a very good position in the air.
So this will be the second one for Arbuckle.
Yep.
On the ball.
And her vault starts at a 9.6, I believe. So it'll go down from there based on her deductions. Oh, closer. Still just missed a landing on that one. Good position in the air, though.
Probably an upper 8.
Yeah, she fell. That's about 5/10.
And the one thing that I really love about gymnastics, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, when your teammate is doing their routine, everybody else is there cheering when they hit a skill, whoop it up, and that's got to be some having that backing.
Yeah, everyone gets into their routine. It's so cool to see. Everyone just loves four, and it gets so exciting. Emma Hillerud is up on vault next for Jamestown. She's also going to compete a souk, flipping vault.
Again, remember that young Jamestown roster. She's a junior. Only one senior on this Jamestown gymnastics team. That's Haley Nelson.
Beautiful. She lands it with just a large hop back. Not bad. She landed on her feet, though. That's great. That step will be about 3/10 each step, I bet. Still should score 9, though.
Looks like Dickinson is wrapping up on the floor, so they probably didn't use all 8 spots
No,
on
it
the
doesn't
floor.
look like it.
Well, actually, they got more coming. There's more going over there.
Or do they just forget their stuff?
Go get their water bottles.
I don't know. And the Grand Forks is still on beam.
On the beam, yep. So Emma Hillerud, she'll have her second vault coming up here for the Jamestown Blue Jays. Again, the beam will be the final event. And when that wraps up, we'll take about a 5-6 minute break. It would be considered halftime, I guess we will. Here comes Emma Hillerud now, the junior for the Blue Jays on the vault. Second attempt.
Nice. And in that vault, she was just trying to look for taking less steps on the landing, and she did just that. Just one step to the side. Great vault overall.
So the Blue Jays, I think they might have one more athlete to compete here on the vault. Unless they go through all of their athletes that they have here. And you look at the floor of Dickinson says, hey, do they have to say we're going to have all 8 before things start, or can they make that decision once they hit the rotation?
As long as they make the decision before the individuals start completing on their event.
So they can't get through 5. Say, okay, we're good.
No, they have to compete all. Well, you can scratch at the end, but usually teams decide that before.
Right.
But you can't switch to rotation after you sent it into the judge.
Oh, still on the vault.
Looks like Haley Nelson is up. She's a senior on the Jamestown gymnastics team.
And second all around last year?
Or
third? Third.
She tied for third, I think.
Yeah, tied for third.
But her vault's one of her stronger events. She competes a souk pike, which starts at a 9-8. Solid landing, just a few tiny steps back, 1/10 each maybe. That'll be a good score. And Emma Hillerud scored an 8.95 on her last vault, which is about where we said she was going to be.
Yep. So again, one more here for Nelson. And again, 1 senior, 3 juniors for Jamestown.
Her chest was up on that one. I feel like that was a better one.
Yeah.
It's going to be close which one they take, but solid vaults by Haley Nelson.
Looked like only 1 step on the dismount.
And you could tell her chest was a little bit higher, in which is what we're looking for instead of lower. I bet the judges like that vault.
Well, we'll check and see. Just Grand Forks is left. They're still on the beam. And when this rotation is complete, we'll get all the scores totaled up. We'll see where we're at halfway through this meet. Jamestown, Dickinson, Grand Forks, and Valley City. And we'll step aside for about a minute. We'll be back with more here in the second rotation. This is Highlander Gymnastics on the Highlander Activity Network. Jamestown still on the vault. I thought they were wrapping up, but they're still on the vault.
Julia Scari is up for Jamestown right now. And Haley Nelson actually scored a 9.4 on her last vault, which is a great score. That means she only got 4/10 in deductions. That's awesome. Here Julia Scari goes. She's already competed one, and she took a few steps back. It wasn't bad. And this is her second attempt. And she tried to pike this time, and it's stuck landing.
Wow.
I couldn't see, but
yeah,
wow.
I don't think there was any step on the landing.
Yeah, that was great. Her last attempt was a tuck, and so she upgraded to a pike, which is going to be a 9.8 star value, the same as Haley. So that should score around the same, I would assume.
I would say 9.5.
Yeah, big vault. And Jamestown has a lot of girls competing flipping vaults, which is kind of unheard of. So that's great to see. I think it's about 4 that we've seen.
We have seen 4, and I think they still have a couple yet to compete. Waiting to see what Scari's score is, the freshman. Grand Forks on the beam. About halfway through their competitors on the beam. So the judges over on the beam tonight, Lori Julian and Olivia Olson, and over on the vault was Grace Anderson and Sheila Anderson. Katie Anderson's on the floor and Rachel Woodley, the judge here on the bars. And I think a couple of judges were spot duty because I think they were short a couple of judges due to illness tonight.
So there's only one event or one judge on bars and floor. Usually there's 2, but they can make it work with one. It looks like Julia Scari scored a 9.35. 9.3.
The young ladies are
changing it on us. 9.325. Great score for her.
There we go, 9.325 for Julia Scari on the beam for Jamestown. And this young lady for Grand Forks has been standing here waiting. They've been totaling up the getting the score from the last competitor.
We can head over to beam to watch Grand Forks.
So here are the Night Riders. And I think they've consistently been that number 2 team in the East the last handful of years. And they still, I think they have just a couple of gymnasts left to compete on the beam. Again, the East consists of Wapanan, Brecht, Fargo. Davies and Fargo South are separate. And then Grand Forks Night Riders and Valley City. Out west is Century, Bismarck High, Legacy, Dickinson, Jamestown, Mandan, and Minot, the teams that compete in the West region. Grand Forks, Megan Johnson, the coach, head coach of the Night Riders. And they only have 5 listed on their roster, but they do have about 10, 12 young ladies here this evening.
Delaney Barrett is a senior from Grand Forks High School. She just finished her beam routine. Solid routine. She seems happy with it.
The lone senior on that Night Riders team. So Jamestown looks like they are still working on the vault. You mentioned they do have a lot of competitors on the vault.
I want to say they might be JV who are competing right now, but I could be wrong. I don't know if this is a JV meet.
The Highliners, when we start the third rotation, will be on the beam.
Yep, so they have a long wait before beam. Just what they want. Oh, and she flipped her vault. So it might not be JP. That's a great vault from her.
Grand Forks on the beam right now as working through our second rotation.
We can head over to vault to watch Jamestown complete out the rotation.
The Blue Jays, well, they get a couple more competitors here on the vault. And then we'll have our halftime, about a 10-minute break. And then we'll get scores that we can get them totaled up, and give you an idea where we're sitting through the first half of tonight's competition. Highliners through their first two, unofficially, are on a 69, is where they're sitting through their first two. A 35.525 on the vault, a 34.4 on the beam. They're on the bars, pardon me. They'll be on the beam next. And then they will finish up with the floor. How is how is the rotation set, Chelsea?
Like with the order?
As teams, yeah. Where teams will start?
Usually the teams draw for it, I think, like at the coach meeting before, but the host team always gets to start on vault. So then they'll end on floor, which is really fun for them, and they'll enjoy it. And
because that's the crowd favorite.
Yeah, everyone gets into it.
We're watching Jamestown on the vault right now, the Blue Jays. We'll be finishing up here on the vault. We've got Grand Forks on the beam. And they're just about through their competitors on the beam. For the dismount.
It looks like they're still touching.
Yeah, she's still
on
touching.
Vault, but on beam, Grand Forks just completed.
she kind of had that a look in her eyes because she was trying to get the coach to bring the pad over for a dismount. Like, get it over here. Hurry up. So Jamestown finishing up here on the vault. I think they've got maybe one more to go here.
It looks like Grand Forks has one or two. One maybe left on beam.
One left on beam.
And looks like one left on vault.
And then again, a halftime, if you will. And then we'll be back with the second set of rotations, which will have Valley City on the beam. Dickinson will be on the vault. Jamestown will be on the bars. Red River will be on the floor in that third rotation. Coach Andrea Bitts went down the runway on the vault. I think trying to see who was going to be finishing up. She gave that sign like, "Oh, you're not going to do it? Okay. All right. How many left?"
Yeah, it looks like this is the last girl competing now. Should be.
And then when Jamestown finishes up here, it'll just be Grand Forks on the beam to wrap things up. And one thing looking at gymnastics, too, is the team sport. There was a Class B at one time, back in the 70s and up until 1990. And that is when they stopped Class B gymnastics, because it's a numbers thing,
yeah,
I'm sure.
Is, yes.
And so they ended up stopping gymnastics in the Class B level. And New Rockford won the last 2 state championships as a Class B school. And looked like New Rockford, Mayville, Portland kind of dominated there, and they, along with Napoleon, in the early years of Class B gymnastics.
There's just not enough athletes to do both Class A and B anymore, so they co-op, and the teams combine, so there's more athletes per team.
It is a numbers thing. You'd like to have, obviously it was only 4 scores as we've talked about, but you still want to have 5, 6, 7, 8 gymnasts out there on your varsity level.
Yeah.
Because if someone gets injured or if someone just has an off night, you like getting those scores. It's same as you look at golf as well. You may have 6 golfers, but you take the top 4 scores. The same type of scenario. The more, the better. And I know that Twisters Gymnastics, we're at about 107. That's all the way up through high school. So that is a nice number to have, and hopefully you get all those kids stick with it over the years.
And I think a lot of them are enjoying it, so it's a great program.
Just get done, Karina. Smile. As we wait for our final Blue Jay here on the vault. Or one of the final Blue Jays. They didn't quite get it.
Close, but landed a little bit short. She gets another attempt at that vault.
And Grant works here on the beam. And I believe this is one of, if not the last competitor for the Knight Riders.
Fell on her series. She's thinking about redoing the whole entire connection. Looks like she's going to get the requirement. And on vault, this is her last attempt. Oh, and she balked, so she didn't actually go for the flip, so they'll take her first vault instead.
And that's a split-second decision.
It is. She might have been too high on the table or just wasn't feeling it and decided to choose not going instead of maybe hurting herself. And Grand Forks just ended beam. I think that's the completion of this rotation.
Yep, I think that will complete this rotation. So 2 rotations in the books. Now we'll have about a 10-minute halftime, if you will. And we're going to get scores, see if we get some team scores tallied up here through the first 2 rotations. And then we'll be back here. We'll be back in about 5 minutes. We'll take about a 5-minute break. And we'll be back in about 5 minutes with the halftime, if you will, and then get ready for our final 2 rotations. It's the Highliner Gymnastics here from the Youth Sports Complex on the Highliner Activity Network.
Hi, it looks like we're back competing beam. Madeline is up. We started a little bit early. Wobbled a little bit on her series, but stayed on. She's not going to get the connection for that element, but she still gets to count those 2 skills she just did. Almost saved it, but she fell on her jump 3/4, so she won't get the ball for that. You can tell she's trying to breathe to calm her nerves, hoping it's going to help. And Jamestown is on bars right now. Dickinson's on vault, already starting. And Grand Forks is on floor. Maddie Wendell just threw an aerial on beam, and I think that's her first day ever trying it on the high beam, so that's awesome to see. She did fall, but it's a big step to just compete it and just try it out, see what's going to happen. She's about to dismount here. Not exactly what she was looking for, but I think she's just gonna be happy that she completed that aerial. It looks like Grace Undum is about to touch, and Zoe Bierke might be competing next.
There was no need for me. You
started a little bit early.
You were. Well, I think they are trying to speed things along with the pending weather.
Good idea.
And I got to get back in my chair here. Forgive me for the grunting and the heavy breathing. I had to get back in my chair, but they're trying to speed things along because of the pending weather that's, it was getting kind of nasty out there. As they say, normally we have about a 5-10 minute break.
They just started right after Grand Forks completed beam, so no intermission.
Now we got Grace Undum up on the beam. Maddie Wendell went first.
Yes. And I think Zoe Bierke is up next. Just off to the side, getting ready for her routine. Wiping off her feet, practice skills. Always helps a little bit.
Grand Forks right now on the floor. Dickinson on the ball. Jamestown on the bars. And the eyeliners here on the beam.
And after the second rotation, it looks like Haley Nelson has an 18.8, Julia Scari 18.625, Elizabeth with 17.55, and the highliners Karina Olsen has a 18.4, and Abby Thornton has a 18.75.
Which would put her second in the all-around behind Haley Nelson. Well, that's not including the Dickinson. Elizabeth Karski is at 17.5. Julia Scari 18.6. And Haley Nelson at 18.8. Again, unofficial results. Zoe Bierke will be next up here on the beam for Valley City. And this is Highliner Gymnastics on the Highliner Activity Network. Paul McDonald, Chassie Krewald, Jaden Johnson, our cameraman and technical director tonight. I thank also Brian Krewald on hand to help get things set up. We'll have another gymnastics meet coming up here on Monday, and that's the blue and white. That'll be the fun blue and white combination between Valley City and Jamestown. Fun one to have before the holidays. You always had that one right before the holidays, didn't you?
It's a nice fun one. You're off of school, no stress except for this meet, and then you just get to have fun at this meet, combining with other teams.
And is it, we would talk about this a little bit earlier in the evening, having three of the top four teams in the state, or three of the top teams in the state, and probably four of the top 5 or 6 in the state here tonight. That's unusual this early in the year to have this kind of a meet, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't remember the top 3 teams combining this early. It might help the gymnasts a little bit just to get a feel for state, kind of.
Well, like you said, you usually don't see the Western teams that much during the year.
No, not at all. We usually stick with the East, and then sometimes Jamestown here and there.
I still call them East.
Yeah.
They're in the West.
I agree. Pretty close to us.
When you're 30 miles away, you're not West.
I believe Maddie scored a 7.475, and Zoe Bierke is up on beam.
Nice dismount.
Solid routine.
And Grayson would be next to compete here for Valley City.
Zoe always seems pretty consistent, even last year, just always sticking to beam routines, even in practice when we have to do those 3 stuck beam routines in a row. She was always done first. She's a very consistent athlete.
Abby's going to get her touch first, I believe, for Valley City. So is Abby Thornton getting her touch here on the balance beam. Now, in the early years of gymnastics, and when I mean early years, I mean 74, 75, there was somersaults as a competition, as an event. They had, I mean, it's only been within the last 2 decades, the last 20 years, they've got it down here to 4 events for competition. Abby didn't look very happy. But when you're doing your touch, you're trying to think of different things that you got to do.
Yeah, and you kind of think of like all this different skills you need to fit into 30 seconds because you get 30 seconds on that beam, and then the coach is timing you, and you're constantly looking over at the coach to see how much time you have left. So the touch is a little bit stressful, but it gets you ready for the competition.
Now Grace Undum will be next year. I really can't see what's going on right now.
Neither can I.
Proud dad.
Shutterbug. That's a proud dad.
Yeah.
So Grace Undum will be next here competing on the beam for Valley City. Assistant coaching her pointers before she gets on there.
And I believe Abby was very good on beam, super elegant, and she teaches the Highlanders very well, like on how to be graceful and dancing, and she's been very helpful this season and last season.
Abby, the assistant coach, or volunteer assistants. Yeah, yep. I mean, you have a lot of people in the gym.
Courtney Mack is also over there sitting by the athletes, calming them down, giving them pointers as well.
Here's Grace Undum on the beam with her routine.
Beautiful series by Grace. That's an awesome series. We're glad to see her land that with barely wobbling. Beautiful switch leap, and she just couldn't get that 3/4 around, and she fell off, but she won't get the connection for that skill. That will lower her start value, but she saw that series to back up for it a little bit. And just some simple jumps like that gives us to 10. And that is a lot when you think about it and when you're trying to get that 10.0 start value. It looks like she tripped off the mat.
I think so, yep.
She did. That is new for her, though. You heard Zoe Bierke say, at least you did it. That is a start for this season. That's just what we're looking for, just to go for things, try to do upgrades. She seems happy.
Teammates definitely are.
Yeah. And it looks like, who is the 8.375?
That would have been
Maddie?
Maddie. No, Maddie Wendell had already competed. It was Zoe Bierke.
Zoe Bierke got an 8.375.
Yep.
Solid score for her. She doesn't have the difficulty that the other athletes do, so her start value is not as high. But as we were saying, upgrades will get her there. And it's still early this season.
Karina Olsen will have her touch. I like how they alternate that. After a competitor, now person gets a touch, then the next.
Yep, just while the judge is judging, you get a little practice run. It works so good.
Judges don't need to watch.
No.
When they're doing the touch.
Actually, athletes prefer they don't watch. It's a little more nerve-wracking.
Well, we've talked about this. I've talked about this with Johnny. The mental aspect of gymnastics and how mentally tough you have to be.
Yes, it is very hard, and sometimes you can get down on yourself if you fall in like the previous event, and then you can't carry it over to the next event. You just have to get over it, restart. It's hard for athletes.
And until you have been there and done it,
you won't understand.
You have no idea.
Yeah. Karina Olsen looks like she's going to compete her backhand. At the previous meet, she did attempt her backhand back lay, but did fall on it. So she's working that in practice, hoping to see that later in the season. We don't have to see it right away. The backhand is amazing. And this Did you just see that? The dismount? That is difficult. Not many people. I think she's the only one in the state that does that right now.
And
if not, there's might be one other person.
And she stuck it.
Yeah, she stuck it. Solid B performer. Always has been. Last year, she's always put up really good scores. Helped the team out a lot.
So now Abby Thornton.
She's getting ready to go. This isn't always her favorite event, but she does it. And she works hard at it. She's a very hard worker.
Sometimes you don't have a choice in the matter.
Yeah. Here she goes, Abby Thornton on beam. Awesome series by Abby Thornton. That is great. That's like the mental side. That series is very hard. And she got through it. That was amazing. And it looks like Grace Undum score is coming. Great jump series by Abby Thornton.
8.050 for Grace.
I think so.
Yeah.
8.05.
Dismount coming up here for Abby.
Very quick routine. She gets on and off as very quick. There is a minimum time limit, but most, almost actually all athletes will exceed that minimum. And here her dismount is. Also very unique. She's a very unique gymnast. Almost stuck. Really good routine from Abby. She's happy with that.
She comes off to the side, not straight from the end of the beam. She kind of dismounts off to the side a little.
Yep, and that's why the mat's placed like that. Just because she takes off, her one foot has to take off on the side of the beam so it doesn't hit it. And that's no deduction at all. We'll move over to beam, or move over to vault, where Dickinson is competing, while the judges are judging Abby's routine. Looks like they're just moving the equipment. So.
And Dickinson was going to, on the floor, they did actually cut it short. They did scratch the rest of their gymnasts.
They did.
They were going to have all, and then they just said, no, we're good.
I was wondering that because Amy Fridley, I do not think competed.
I did not see her out there.
It looks like Elizabeth Karski is touching right now. So we can go over to bars where Ella Rude is competing.
Ella Rude from Jamestown.
Solid routine by Emma. Karina is about to start competing, so we'll head over to beam. Just finding her spot for her dismount right now.
Marks it with chalk so she sees it.
Yep, but there's a lot of chalk on that beam, so it's kind of sometimes hard to find.
Put a smiley face or something.
Yeah.
Put your initials.
Should.
This is my spot. And we talked about the chalk for the gripping on the uneven bars. Now they have it for the feet.
Yes, it's totally different from bars, but this helps so their feet aren't slippery, like sweating-wise. It just
absorbs that?
Yep, supposedly helps to stay on the beam better, but I never used it, but Karina uses it often.
She's really working her foot around in that bucket.
I think she got distracted.
Yeah, Coach Abby was chatting to her a little bit. So as Karina Olsen now gets ready to compete here on the beam. And that would be the final competitor for the Highlanders on the beam. I did not see Abby's score pop up yet.
I don't think they're finished with it yet. Yeah, they're still judging.
Okay. That's why Karina's waiting for her routine. That happened with Grand Forks Red River, too. They were taking a little extra time. They normally have 2 judges at each event, but we're short a couple of judges due to illness tonight.
Usually it takes longer with 2 judges, actually, because they have to talk about the score and talk about the different differences in values. So it takes a little bit longer, especially if you have a new judge who's just starting to learn how to do it.
Right.
And it's the first meet of the season for some people, for some of the judges.
Oh, here goes Karina Olson now to compete on the beam.
She did not go for her second back handspring. I do not know what she's going to do. Handstand back handspring to hopefully get that series. There's a little bit wobble. The judges may count it. Abby's score is in.
9-1-5, 9-1. Oh, we know 9-1.
9.175 it looks like. That's a really big score for Abby. That's awesome. Nice jumps by Karina. Getting ready for her dismount. Oh, slight wobble on her full turn. Beautiful dismount by Karina. Way to finish 13.
So Karina Olson wrapping up on the beam for the Highliners. So again, as of right now, Maddie Wendell at a 7.475. Kelly Bierke 8.375.
Sorry to
No, go
interrupt
ahead.
you, but we're going to go to vault quickly.
Yeah.
This is Elizabeth Karski. This is a beautiful vault. Oh,
She stuck it on the touch.
I think she thought she was way lower than that. Kind of looked like she had a little bit of a whiplash because she was so high. That was a beautiful vault, though. Her landing was a little off.
Yeah, she is rubbing the back of her neck, too, a little bit.
It looked like her head just flew a little bit back.
She nailed it on the touch.
Yeah. And that was a very high vault. She just didn't really know where the landing was.
I think that was her first attempt.
That was her first attempt, yeah. Anyway, with the beam scores, Maddie got a 7.475, Zoe with an 8.375, Grace Undum with an 8.05, and Abby Thornton with a 9.175. And the judges are still judging Karina Olsen's routine. And here Elizabeth goes for her second attempt.
Just
one
step.
slight hop back. Yeah, that was a very great vault. Very open in the air, great layout position. That is worth a 10.0 start value.
And I think that one, like I said, just about a half a step on the dismount.
It looks like Amy Fridley is up next for Dickinson on vault.
And I think she must have competed on the floor if she's going for an all-around, so she must have competed on the floor, but I didn't see her.
I didn't see her either.
Because they weren't fast. They were flying through their athletes. Amy Fridley, the defending state champion. Waiting for the judges to finish tallying up Elizabeth Karski's score.
Amy Fridley is also doing a Yurchenko layout, which is worth a 10.0 start value. So the same vault as Abby Thornton did. And Elizabeth Karski got a 9.575. Great score. Very pretty layout from Amy Fridley. That was awesome. Very open in the air.
Maybe 2 steps off the dismount. And for Karina Olson, a 9.575.
I think she's very surprised. That's an awesome score for her.
That is a very good score.
You should see her face. She's very happy with that score.
So a 9.575 for Karina Olson. So the Highlanders about a 35 or so on the beam.
And Amy Fridley is up for her second vault. Better landing than the first one, just a slight hop back. That should score very well. Let's head over to bars. And it looks like Haley Nelson might be up next. Julia Scari just got done competing. And I think that's her last athlete to go.
So Haley Nelson is next to appear on the unevens. As a judge is finishing up on Julia Scari's totals before Haley jumps up. About a 35 for Valley City on the beam. Was that what about?
I'll check.
Yeah, you don't want to trust my math.
I don't dare even try.
Looks like Red River has wrapped up, or Grand Forks Night Riders are wrapped up on the floor. The Highlanders will be on the floor next.
Highlanders got a 35.175 on beam. That is very good. 2 9s on beam as well from Abby and Karina. Very great rotation for the Highlanders.
So unofficially about a 105 for Valley City going into the floor.
And Haley Nelson is up on bars from Jamestown.
Come on, Haley.
Amy Fridley got a 9.7 on vault. Very big score. Haley with the dismount and just a small hop forward. Great routine for Haley Nelson.
That's a really high score. Yeah, it is.
And that's going to wrap the up the beam.
And I think that's it for the third rotation.
Yeah, that rotation went rather quickly.
Yeah, this did.
So that means we are a little step aside for a couple of minutes as the next rotation will have Valley City on the floor. Jamestown will be on the beam. Dickinson will be on the bars. And Grand Forks will be on the vault. We'll be back with that final rotation coming up. This is Highlander Gymnastics on the Highlander Activity Network.
Well, that's what she thought it was going to be. Well, Amy got it 9. 7. No. No. Do that. I feel like you could get it 10. Just stick it. No, she did 1 year. One judge gave her 9. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Lori gave me a 9.9 at state. And then one judge gave me like a 9.75. And I was like, no, from that 9. No, Lori gave me 9.9. The other judge gave me a 9.85. The third judge gave me a 9.75. Whenever I stayed, I stepped my ball, and then I had to sit down with my bench. I stumped it, and then I presented it. I thought that was somebody laughing at us. Hey, who's glass? What's the order? You are? I think so.
Paul McDonald, Chassis Crewell back with you here at the Youth Sports Complex here in Valley City. Final rotation here in tonight's meet. Dickinson now on the bars, Jamestown on the beam. Over on the vault will be Grand Forks, and the Highliners will be on the ever-popular floor.
And it looks like Haley is in the lead with a 28.3. And Karina and Abby are just behind them with 27.9s. And then Elizabeth Karski is just behind those two with a 27.125 unofficially.
And we were just discussing, looks like Amy Fridley is only competing in 2 events tonight.
Yeah, she's only competing in the bars and vault. She bruised her shins on the bars, I heard.
Okay.
And so she decided to opt out of bars or beam and floor. But she has a great bar routine coming up at the end of the rotation. And it looks like Valley is just warming up on floor, so it should be about another minute or so before they begin.
And these floors are, they're springy, those that have watched, and they give you a little push.
Yeah, especially ours. Ours is, I feel like, the bounciest in the state. So that's always nice. But going to other places like Fargo or Jamestown, where the floor's a little bit harder, is a little bit harder on the Highliners.
So, again, we were talking about this floor is, of course, a combination of the gymnastics and some dance. And is there requirements in there?
Yes. Usually a leap, a turn, and then you have to have a certain amount of skills in the routine and tumbling passes, and you have to match that difficulty. So then you can do 2 to 3 tumbling passes. And the judges love to see the athlete get into their routine and dance and make eye contact, look like they're having fun, which Valley sometimes struggles with because they're so focused. But the judges love to see those smiles.
Well, and you look, and I have seen, you watch college gymnastics they're clapping, getting the crowd into it, you know, and that's what the teammates around the mat will do too. But you know, they're almost like they're doing a dance, and let's get into this.
Yeah, and if you watch on the sideline, like the rest of the teammates while the other gymnast is going, they'll all do the routine with them. They'll copy their dance. It's very fun.
Because they know what's coming. They've seen it in practice.
And they even do that at practice, so that's really awesome to see. It looks like Maddie Wendell is going to start them off. Once they're ready.
The other 3 events have already started. Dickinson again is on the bars. Jamestown here on the beam. And Grand Forks on the vault. It's the final rotation.
I think they're just getting the music situated, and then they'll begin.
So Katie Anderson, the judge, says, I'm ready. So here we go.
Maddie Wendell is up. Looks like they can't quite get the music figured out.
Again, technology.
Yep.
Here it is.
There we go. Looks like she didn't go for her first pass. That's called a balk. She definitely did not mean to do that. I don't know what happened. Maybe off in her round off or her run. A lot of things can happen. And she chose it would be dangerous to go rather than just not. Her second pass is beautiful, just a step on the landing, but that is a controlled step, so there's no deduction in that. If it is uncontrolled, it's usually about 1 to 3/10. But if it looks controlled, then that is perfectly fine. To do her last pass here on floor. So she does 3 passes in her routine, and then she has a leap and a jump included. So that equals a 9-2, but she can only go up from there with the bonuses. So her second pass was bonus, and her jumps and leaps are as well. Good finish for Maddie. Disappointed with the first pass, but finished very well. And that's what's really hard to do is mess up on your first pass and have to continue that minute-long floor routine.
Is that the minimum?
It's usually a minute 30.
Minute 30.
And I think it has to be around there.
Okay. So that was Maddie Wendell getting things started on the floor.
And just being like mentally prepared to fall in the first pass and then have to complete the rest of the routine is so hard on an athlete. And you just have to put that aside very quickly before the second pass begins. And she did that very well.
Have to have a short memory.
Yeah, yeah.
And Jamestown right now working on the beam, waiting for the next highliner. Believe Grace Undham, she was warming up with Maddie.
And it looks like Zoe is also ready to go, so it could be either of those. But Abby and Karina Olsen are warming up right now, and Abby almost hit Karina. That was a close one.
That was a little close.
Oh, good pass by Karina.
So we're just waiting for the next competitor, which is going to be Zoe.
And so Abby Thornton and Karina Olsen now get 1 minute combined. And that's really hard because you have to do passes in a row and continue to work in that minute and get as much in as possible. And it can be very tiring.
So their warm-up is complete. And Zoe Bjerke will now do her routine.
It looks like Maddie Wendell scores an 8.15.
Yep.
If they switched it from last time.
I believe that is, yep, that is hers. Katie Anderson says, the judge says, I'm ready. So here's Zoe Bjerke on the floor.
And you can see all the athletes in the corner on the side doing the routine with Zoe. Standing up. It always helps when the athletes cheer loud for you, and it gets you pumped up for your pass. Nice pull by Zoe. That's new to the routine this year. And one of the requirements is twisting, so she meets that requirement in that one pass. Getting ready for his second pass, which is a double salto pass, so that is another requirement that they need to meet.
So there's two.
And getting ready for her third one. Super quick. Have to have a lot of endurance for this event. Very good by Zoe Bjerke. A little stumble on that turn. I'm not a judge, so I don't know what they do with that last turn, but it should. Oh, she forgot to present. There we go. She was just so excited. But solid routine.
Zoe Bjerke on the floor. Grace Undum will be next up for Valley City. And looks like Addison Fitterer is about ready to doing her touch on the bars for Dickinson, but we await Grace Undum. And she's now going to be competing on the floor for Valley City. Our final rotation. Grand Forks is on the vault. Dickinson is on the bars. Jamestown on the beam. And then we'll get things total up and see how things played out here tonight. First home meet liners. I'll have another one coming up in January, competitive, along with the black and white, or the blue and white, here on Monday. That's always a fun meet right before the holidays. I'm going to have my phone on because the Vikings play Monday Night Football. No, I'm kidding.
Yes, smart.
We'll be done before they start.
Hopefully. It should be a short, quick meet.
Here comes Grace Undum on the floor. 8-7 for Zoe.
Yes, that's a great score for Zoe. That's awesome. Beautiful first pass from Grace Undum. She just floats in the air on that full, which is so hard to do because it is a difficult skill. This is a new routine for Grace, and it looks like she's having a lot of fun on the floor, so that's good. I'm glad she's enjoying it. Nice front tuck from play from Grace. Little wobble at the end, but she covered it nicely.
That was her second pass?
Yes, and now she's about to do her last one after this jumps. Grace has an awesome finish, stuck landing and everything.
Nice
Great
routine.
Yes. She'll be happy with that. So is Abby Brown, the coach.
That's got to be around an 8-9 maybe? What do you think?
It should be, yes. Yeah. Even, hopefully it hits a 9.
That'd be good.
That was a great routine.
So Abby Thornton and Karina Olson, the final two to compete for the Highlanders on the floor.
Let's move over to bars, and Addison Fitterer is competing, just filling up her bar routine. She's a very clean gymnast. Her lines are beautiful. Just a step on the landing, but a great finish.
So it looks like Abby Thornton is up next for Valley City.
Let's head that way. She is starting now. That was a quick judging. And she also got an 8.9. You were right.
I can judge this.
Yeah. You know.
No.
Neither could I. Nice 1.5 from Abby. Just hop on the landing. I know she's working a front tuck out of that pass, so that could be an upgrade later in the season. She also got a new routine from last year, and she actually got to participate in making it up, so that's good. Nice pass from Abby Thornton for her second. One more to go. This is an amazing routine so far. Pass coming up now. That is such a unique pass. I'm so glad she put that in the routine. Very solid, very clean. Not many times you see that at the end of a routine.
Nice.
Let alone the beginning.
And nailed the music too as well. Great routine by Abby Thornton.
Smiling all the way through it, which is always good.
That's got to be a 9.1 or 9.2.
Oh, it should be, yeah.
If not higher, but I would say right around there.
Yeah.
We'll see how good I am in that one. Now, Karina Olson will be the final competitor for the Highliners here on the floor.
This has been Karina's #1 event for a long time. This and Beam have been her solid events. She has scored as high as like a 9.7, I believe, last year. Always very clean.
Katie Anderson, the judge, finishing her tally. And then we'll see what score.
Elizabeth Karski and Karina are going to be going out about the same time. We'll focus on Karina Olson first. Abby Thornton got a 9.05. I expected a little bit higher, but I'm not a judge, so I don't know. I don't have the sheet in front of me. That should improve this season, though. Little hop on the 1.5, but very clean. Smiling through a routine. Judges love to see it. Nice leap pass there. Not just laughing, or not just smiling, laughing even.
Comes the second pass.
Yep. Small hop to the side, but that was good. Making eye contact.
Giving us a little glance.
Yeah.
You more than me. Here comes the final pass.
A larger hop backwards, but still a solid pass and a very good routine. She's going to be happy with that. And that concludes their floor rotation.
So the Highliners done on the floor. Looks like Grand Forks is done on the vault.
Let's move to bars where Amy Fridley, the reigning bars champion, is competing.
And again, only competing in 2 events here tonight. Waiting for the judge to finish Elizabeth Karski's score.
Elizabeth Karski got a 9.65. A little bobble on that bail, but she covered it up really well. Hitting all those handstands and connections. Wow. That is an amazing routine by Amy.
That's why she's one of the best, if not the best in the state.
Yes, she is.
And I think that'll conclude Dickinson's work on the bars.
And let's head over to the beam where Jamestown is competing. And Karina Olsen got a 9.4 on floor.
Probably about where you figured.
I think so, yeah. Especially for the second meet of the season. That's a great start.
So that was a touch by one of the Blue Jays. And they are the final team to compete right now, working here on the beam. So we'll have 3 out of the 4 team scores.
The Highliners ended floor with a 36.05, which is a great floor score.
And I'm going to say overall probably about a 141 is I'm going to see where they're going to be.
Okay.
And if that's the case, that's 4 points higher than they scored in Fargo, where they had a 137.
That is awesome.
But when the official tallies get done up, we'll let you know. Jamestown still has a couple of competitors here on the beam.
The Highlanders are probably hoping to get that floor average up to 37. They want a little bit more than 2 9s on floor because having a 9 on floor is a little bit easier. Hoping we can get 4 9s and count 4 scores like that. That'd be awesome. Their beam score of 37 was just kind of what they were looking at. They're looking good for this early in the season.
And again, a lot of skills will be added and or subtracted as you go along, and that will help with those scores.
Yeah, just looking at the judging sheets and seeing what shouldn't be in their routine or what they should add, and just seeing what they get deducted for is always super helpful. And so they can change up their routines a little bit.
So again, Jamestown, they are on the beam. And they still have a couple of competitors left to finish up.
It looks like Amy Fredley scored a 9.55 on the bars.
So Karski scored higher.
Yeah, that looks a little bit lower than she usually does, but it's still an overall really good score.
So we are focusing on the beam where Jamestown has a couple more competitors. And when the Blue Jays finish up, we'll see if we have team totals and give you an idea where we're at here after this final rotation. And again, we've got the blue and white coming up here Monday night. Again, that is a 5 o'clock start here at the Youth Sports Complex, with Jamestown coming across. And again, Jamestown and Valley City will combine teams. Kind of a fun pre-holiday meet. Not going to see a lot of new stuff in that.
No, but just because that's Monday, they don't have a lot of practices until then, but over Christmas break, you'll see a lot more upgrades because you have a little bit longer to work on them. Usually you only get about a week in between each meet, which is really tough to work on upgrades. But during this Christmas break would be a great time to start throwing them in the routine or working on soft mats to hopefully see them in January.
January 8th, I think, is when Jamestown has their meet, and that would probably be the next one for the Highliners, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
And then the following 15th, the Highliners are back here hosting.
so plenty of time to hopefully upgrade before the next home meet. Usually you like to throw your upgrades at your home gym, like on floor, because you're used to the events or you're used to the equipment. So you usually see upgrades more at home meets.
And that second half of the year, once we get past the New Year, is going to go fast. The next thing you know, it's East Region, then State.
Yeah. Just flies by. A short amount of time to get upgrades in. So you have to work fast and try to throw them in safely.
That's the key, safely.
Yeah.
This one is right. All right, speaker. We're gonna get the buses on the road.
There we go. We were muted. Getting the official word on what's going on here. They're going to, as soon as Jamestown's done, they're going to get the tallies. We're going to get a score sheet. They're trying to move things along so these teams can get home because, again, weather's, well, as the song goes, the weather outside is frightful.
Yeah, and it looks like Jamestown has only a few competitors left, so we should get those scores pretty quickly.
I know they had, I think, at least one, maybe, that they had left to go.
I think it looks like Brenna Hatch is up next. She is a junior this year. And it looks like they actually have 3 left to go.
So 3 competitors, 3 competitors left. And January 7th, actually, is when Jamestown will have host their meet. And you can keep tabs on what Valley City will be doing again. As I mentioned, they got the blue and white coming up here on Monday night. And then they'll have a little break heading into during the holidays. And then they'll be at American Gold, actually, on January 7th in Fargo.
They go there quite often. It's only an hour away, so that's pretty nice. And you get used to that harder floor. It looks like she just messed up a little bit, but I think she's going to be okay.
That was her touch, too.
Yeah, good thing. She's still laying there, but she gave a thumbs up.
And actually, I think Johnny came from Fargo, so he probably has connections with American Gold Gym.
Yeah, I think a few of our athletes actually did a camp there this summer, so that was very helpful for their training, just to get different environments, different coaches.
And for folks that didn't know this, Johnny's dad, John Sr., he's in the University of Minnesota Hall of Fame for gymnastics.
Wow. Yeah, he also came here for a camp this summer. Mm-hmm. And the girls enjoyed it a lot. They took a lot of great advice from him. Great to have those connections.
Yeah, that helps having a Hall of Famer coming in.
Yeah, right.
Show you how to do a few things.
Yeah.
The University of Minnesota always has had some outstanding gymnastics teams over the years in the Big Ten Conference. So again, we are awaiting Jamestown. They're just finishing off the scoring from the prior. And again, just a couple of, athletes left to go here for the Jays, maybe 3. You see a couple of young ladies warming up here in front of us. And then they're going to try to get those final tallies. And we'll let you know how things played out and wrap things up. Hey, a reminder, I keep forgetting to talk about this. We got a full day of wrestling coming up tomorrow on the Highlander Activity Network as the Highlander Holiday Wrestling Tournament. 16 teams are due in. Now, again, who knows what happens out this if weather continues to be a little inclement heading into the night. I think the snow is supposed to stop, but the wind's supposed to continue here. But that is really a lot of people saying a precursor preview of the state meet. 16 teams will be here. Wrestling will get started around 10:30. We'll have coverage around 10:15 and a full day of wrestling from the Highlander Activity Center tomorrow. It is the Highlander Holiday Wrestling Tournament. And that'll be all day long tomorrow here on the Highlander Activity Network on the Go channel. Again, if you just go to our Highlanders.org, click on the live link, and then you'll have, of course, that'll take you to our play site.com where we have all of our live events. And just pick the Go camera, the Valley City Go, and be able to enjoy wrestling all day tomorrow.
It looks like Brenna Hatch, the junior, is up on beam right now. Solid series from her. She fell early in the routine, but came back with that series. Slight wobble on that full turn, but that's usually only a 1/10 of a deduction. So not bad. Very solid routine from Brenna Hatch.
The junior.
No.
So again, I think this will be
It kind of looks like they have 4 more athletes.
at least 4, yeah, because I saw 3 of them were warming up here down below us prior to.
Emma Hillerud is competing next. Scaria's practicing right now.
Again, another young team, just 1 senior for Jamestown. Finished second last year, or third last year. I want to say the last 3 years, it's been Dickinson, Jamestown, Valley City in some order. Well, obviously Dickinson first.
Yep.
At the state meet.
Yeah, and Valley City and Jamestown are usually really close at every single meet. It's always a great competition when those 2 teams are together.
And that's what makes probably the blue and white so much fun.
Yeah, yeah. Because there are those, the actual team scores and then the mini team scores with like the combined teams that make it even one.
So as we get ready here on the beam for Jamestown, with 4 competitors remaining. And then we'll have the team scores. They already have 3 teams totaled and figured out. Again, I have just doing the math in my head. The Highlanders are on a 141, which would be an excellent score tonight.
Great improvement from last week. Or 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, December 3rd.
Yeah.
They were at American Gold.
And just by their scores, you can tell that they had 2 weeks of great practices leading up to this meet.
Also check and see with the all-around tonight. And then we'll let you know where everybody is at. Thought we were going to get handed to something official, but
Wasn't for us.
yeah, it wasn't for us. And it's not quite done yet because Jamestown obviously is still competing here on the beam.
They have their 4 best athletes last, so their score will change a lot. Here, Emma Hillerud is the junior from Jamestown. And this is a little less stressful, there's 2 teams not really watching, just kind of doing their own thing on the floor. But there are still a lot of parents watching beam because it's the last event. There's some music playing.
Of course, we have the viewing area back behind us, and there's a large contingent of fans up there.
Great series from Emma Hillerud. Slight bobble, but she covered it well. Really good jumps.
Dismount.
Nice routine from Emma Hillerud. That would really help their team score out.
So 3 more coming up here for Jamestown.
It looks like Haley Nelson is about to touch, and Julia Scari is up next.
Haley, the lone senior on this team for Jamestown.
She has won this event in the past for state, which is very huge. She's won multiple events, actually, during state in past years. Last year, I think it was the beam.
It was the beam. That was the only event that Amy Fridley did not win.
Yeah, so here we go.
So now Scari, a fresh Leah.
Just waiting on the judges.
Getting Emma Hillerud's totals.
Looks like Brenna Hatch got an 8-7. Solid score.
Mm-hmm. Finishing up the looks like placing.
Yeah.
They're chalking. No, we're talking amongst ourselves. So they're chalking 1 through 10 on the floor exercise, and I'm assuming it's for
placement,
but I thought in the all around. But
yeah, I thought they were just going to call their names just to get
right
on the bus quicker. But
maybe they didn't tell the girls that.
Yeah.
Because normally you have a podium.
Yeah, usually we do.
Maybe that's how quickly they're going to do it. They're not going to have them on a podium.
Oh, maybe.
Just go stand and get a group picture, and away you go. Here comes Julia Scari on her routine.
Freshman from Jamestown. Emma Hillerud received a big score of a 9-3. Awesome score for her. Great connection from Julia Scari. Nice back tuck from Julia Scari. That's a great ending of the routine. Just her dismount left.
You can see the concentration. She was really thinking about it.
Yep. Preparing herself for it. Awesome finish. Very solid routine.
Emma Scari, or Julia Scari, the freshman. Wearing their holiday glasses, maybe?
And maybe it's like a stick glasses. If you stick your routine, you get the glasses.
Oh, there we go.
I'm not sure. I wasn't paying much attention to that.
So 2 competitors left here for Jamestown. As Haley Nelson is still due up. Now this is the touch. As Haley Nelson will be the next competitor.
I believe so too.
For Jamestown.
And then Blair Arbuckle must be their last competitor.
The final one. So again, this is Highliner Gymnastics. And before we sign off again, just a thank you to Jaden Johnson, Ben cameraman and technical director all night, sticking around with us here tonight. Thanks very much, Double J. Brian Krewald also here on hand. And he's going to be getting us the results at the end. And we'll let you know how this played out. I'm feeling the Highlanders are going to be one or two tonight. That's my guess.
Yeah, it's going to be a close competition, especially with the all-around.
With Amy Fridley, that she just did 2 events tonight.
It'll make the competition a little bit closer between the 4 teams.
So now Haley Nelson with her routine on the beam for Jamestown. Waiting for the judges to finish their totals on Scari. So she had an 8-7. Hillerud had a 9-3. And now Haley Nelson.
Fell on her 3/4 jump. That has happened quite a few times today. We just couldn't get those landed on the beam. It looks like Julia Scari scored a 9-4, 7-5
Ooh. Haley went down a little bit more.
She fell on her series, got up. I think she's going to re-chalk. Probably not try it again, just finish her routine. Probably hurt a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Very
nice
solid.
recovery.
Yeah. Nice finish. Very tough to finish that way.
Not very happy with it, but I bet you don't see that on the road in the state tournament.
No,
the
she'll
state
get
meet.
way more consistent.
So the final competitor, Blair Arbuckle, the junior, will be the final competitor for Jamestown here on the beam.
Even like leading that performance of Haley Nelson, there's a lot of nerves from Blair. Just watching that happen, then you have to have that in your head, and you have to make sure you don't do that. And it's just a lot more pressure because she fell before you and want to have a good team score. There is more pressure on Blair Arbuckle now.
So as the judges total things up, we'll have Blair Arbuckle, final competitor here for Jamestown. Again, the blue and white here on Monday, 5 o'clock with Jamestown and Valley City. And we'll have coverage for you here on the Highlander 280 Network. Again, wrestling all day tomorrow, beginning at around 10:30 from the Hack. The Highlander Holiday Wrestling Tournament. Got boys basketball on Tuesday as they host Fargo South.
It looks like there's just one more competitor left for this competition. And again, a 9.475 for Julia Scari is a great score. Very big score for the team.
Haley will probably be, what, 8'3", 8'4"?
Yeah, with that fall and the no connection, should be around there.
His Hatch is 8'7", is the lowest of the last three competitors.
Yes, that is very good. We have a solid 4 at the end of the rotation.
So the judges just wrapping up their tallies. What is the hardest to judge in your mind?
I would say bar, but because it's just like there's no dance, it happens super quick. But I think vault would be the easiest.
Especially since you're already going to know ahead of time what they're going to do.
Yeah. Beam is a little bit slower pace, so you can write down what the skills were. But bars, I couldn't imagine doing it so quick. It's like skill after skill.
A couple of folks say, yes, the judges are slow. Well, one of them can say that because it's the father of one of the judges. There we go. This is going to be, again, Haley Nelson's, but on the beam, Blair Arbuckle, the junior for Jamestown.
Haley Nelson's score is an 8.5. I think you guessed right around there.
Yeah, I was at about 8.4.
Wow. Nice series from Blair Arbuckle. Another 3/4 jump, and that was perfect. Awesome landing. Another one, and she landed that one as well. Awesome. And her dismount, just to finish it off. Great routine by Blair Arbuckle.
I'll say 9.4.
Here we go.
Again, the lowest of the last four has been that 8.5 by Haley Nelson.
They're going to have a great overall team score.
They're going to be probably around 36 or 37 on the beam. So as the judges tally that up, we'll just step aside momentarily. We'll be back, have our final totals on this one at the Highliner Gymnastics meet. We'll be back with those final totals. This is Highliner Gymnastics on the Highliner Activity Network. Two and three.
You're 2 and 3.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Just for some noise. I'll run up the Josh right now, and then you can kind of talk as I'm walking out. Yeah.
Yeah,
I won't come across very good anyway.
No, that works. Schmoozing the judges. That's what insurance guys do. Schmooze the judges. I heard my name.
I waxed my shins on the bar. They like hurt all week when we were like, oh,
Quit touching my stuff.
yeah. That's what's going on. Wait, really? We're
Bob McDonald back with you along with Chassie Krewald as we are just about ready to get the results here and wrap things up tonight from the Youth Sports Complex And I guess before we get the numbers, Chauncey, okay, you got this, and now you got the blue and white meet coming up Monday, but what are some things now that they need to clean up on as they look forward here down the line?
Oh, they'll just work on consistency, not as much falls, not as much wobbles, getting things more clean, but also those upgrades. They want to upgrade though every single event to try to get to the top and try to have the highest possible score, or that 10.0 start value for every single event for every single person, which will add up, and you could be a top competitor and win state if you have those 10.0 start values and those flipping vaults. I think a lot of them are going to work on flipping their vaults or adding combinations to their floor routines.
With that, and you got to be pleased, though, with the way they performed tonight in this only the second meet of the year.
Oh, yes. I know Johnny is very pleased with how they performed, and especially if they've already increased their score, their team score.
Because unofficially, I have them on my head at about a 141 for Valley City, which would be 4 points higher than what they did over in Fargo. I'm sorry, I had to giggle. How many years has he been watching gymnastics?
Way too many. What's Olympic order?
Oh, but he was getting the orders. Brian's going to get us all the final scores here. Get us each individual event. We'll get the all-around and, of course, the team scores. But obviously when you go into tonight, you leave tonight, seeing Dickinson here, though, Chauncey, I suppose has got to be good, not only for Valley City, but for Jamestown. All right, you're going to see what they have. Now you know what you're up against as the season goes on.
Yeah, it motivates them for sure. They know what they're going to look like at a round state. They know what they have to work on. They also can just see, feed off of Dickinson and be like, oh, that's a cool scale. I want to work on that. And work on that over Christmas break. This is an awesome meet for Dickinson to attend. Not
having Amy Fridley compete in everything, not a bad. I mean, obviously she's injured. She's nursing an injury. So, it's only the second meet. You don't need to throw her out there, but you still would like to see the best in the state compete in all four events.
Yeah, and even though the other four are the top of the top, almost ranked 1 through 5, Amy Fridley is their star competitor, and it would be really nice to see her on all four events, but even just seeing them on 2 really helps.
And she was on the vault and on the bars was what she competed on tonight. She did not do the beam or the floor, but so we'll see how the final tallies come up. I think our top competitor, Julia Scari, is going to be up there towards the top. Elizabeth Karski from Dickinson, Haley Nelson from Jamestown, Abby Thornton, and Karina Olson from Valley City. They probably are going to be your top 5.
Yeah, it's going to be a close one.
As they're just getting the beam was the final event, and the head beam judge is getting those things figured out.
Just double checking everything, making sure everything's accurate.
Those checks and balances, cross-checking and double-checking.
Signing off on things.
And then we'll have the 4 individual winners, the all-around, and they are going to have a brief ceremony here on the floor. You see all the teams are sitting on the floor right now on the floor exercise, and you see the numbers 1 through 10. They are going to have them line up. Originally, they weren't going to. They wanted to get them on the bus, but maybe weather has tapered off enough that they think, well, we can still give them some recognition.
Yeah, the athletes really wanted it, so.
And parent photo op.
Yep, yeah.
So the parents can get down there and get some pictures of the athletes when they get the final 10 out and announced. And we'll have the individual winners, the all-around, and the team numbers. And then we'll wrap things up here. Again, we've got the blue and white coming up here on Monday. 5 o'clock it'll start. Jamestown will be coming to town here on Monday. And again, the fun mixed mashed event that they have. That's hard to say. And again, wrestling again all day tomorrow. So lots yet to come here before the holiday break on the Highlander Activity Network. And again, just a reminder, Coach's Corner, we will not have Coach's Corner the next 2 days for that holiday break. But if you missed any events that we have had, they're all archived. Just go to Highlanders.org and you can check in live and get into our list of archived events, Highlander archived events, activities, and go back and watch what has already transpired here in the first part of the 2021-2022 winter sports season. We'll have boys basketball coming up on Tuesday night, and then off for a few nights. And then next, the 28th, we'll have more boys basketball from the Hack. And as I mentioned, wrestling as well. So lots coming up here on the Highline Activity Network. How long is school out for you? Until early January?
Yeah, I think it's January 10th or 11th.
So you got almost a month off.
I did.
What are you going to do?
Oh, I don't know. Relax. Work.
Finals go good?
Yeah.
Good. And Cassie, of course, graduated from Valley City last year, and VCSU now, and we're getting. But they're really dotting the I's and crossing the T's here to make sure everything is correct before they wrap things up. And now the girls, they're enjoying it, but they want to get rolling here. They want to, figure out where everything is.
Yeah, they're all playing games, and it's cool to see. Like, if you look at the floor right now, all the some of the teams are combined. Grand Forks, Valley, playing a few games. It's always fun to see.
And a lot of them have known each other for years because they've probably been competing. They've gone to camps, so renewing friendships.
Yep.
Johnny Tobler, too, is going to join us. He'll jump on here and just get a couple of quick his thoughts on how today went after they get everything wrapped up. He'd like to know if they won or lost before we talk to the coach. He probably has an idea in his head. Coaches do that. They kind of have an idea in their head where things are at. I think we're getting it. We're getting close. We're getting awfully close. This is the Jeopardy theme. Would be really cool right about now. And Brian Krewald, who's the PA announcer here, he's going to get a copy. And I think he's about ready to announce it here. So they'll be lining up 1 through 10. And then we will have the results as well. Teams getting back to with their teams. And here we are. We're about ready to be handed the official. I feel like this pageant, and we're waiting for the judge's final total, final amounts. Oh, well, he's apparently he's going to announce them, and we're just going to have to listen.
Mic check. There you go. Thanks. All right, one more big thanks to our judges, Grace, Sheila, Rachel, Lori, Lydia, and Katie. We're going to go up to 10 spots, starting with vault. In tied for 9th place, both from Dickinson High with a 9.075, Addison Fitterer and Brooke Golden-Shook. In 8th place from Dickinson High with a 9.125, Aspen O'Rourke. In 7th from Jamestown with a 9.15, Brenda Hatch. In 6th place from Dickinson High with a 9.175, Reagan Stroman.
Okay, we're going to go top 5 here on vault. On vault, Julia Scari placed 5th with a 9.325. 4th, Haley Nelson with a 9.4 from Jamestown. 3rd, Abby Thornton from Valley City with a 9.550. And then 2nd, Elizabeth Karski with a 9.575 from Dickinson High. And then 1st place is Amy Fridley from Dickinson High School with a 9.7. Bars results. Okay, bars results 5. Okay, we're gonna go top 6.
Yep.
Abby Thornton from Valley City placed 6th with a 9.2. Karina Olson placed 5th from Valley City with a 9.4. Aspen Rodamel from Dickinson High placed 4th with a 9.45. Haley Nelson from Jamestown placed 3rd with a 9.5. Amy Fridley from Dickinson High placed 2nd with a 9.55. And in first place is Elizabeth Karski from Dickinson High with a 9.65. In 6th place, on beam, Abby Thornton placed 6th place from Valley City with a 9.175. Blair Arbuckle from Jamestown placed 5th with a 9.275. In 4th place, Emma Hillerud from Jamestown with a 9.35. In 3rd place, it's Addison Fitterer from Dickinson High with a 9.4. Julia Scari from Jamestown placed 2nd with a 9.425. And Karina Olson, one beam with a 9.575. Floor results. In 8th place, Abby Thornton placed 8th from Valley City with a 9.05. Riley Olson from Dickinson High placed 7th with a 9.1. There was a three-way tie for 4th. Brooklyn Warrener from Dickinson High, Macy Stanislavski from Grand Forks, and Emma Hillerud from Jamestown all placed 4th with 9.250. Julia Scari from Jamestown placed 3rd with a 9.3. And there was also a tie for first place. Karina Olson from Valley City and Haley Nelson both scored from Jamestown, both scored a 9.4. All around results. In 5th place, Addison Fitterer from Dickinson High, 36.7 or 575. Elizabeth Karski from Dickinson High placed 4th with a 36.775. Haley Nelson from Jamestown placed 3rd with a 36.8. And Abby Thornton from Valley City placed 2nd with a 36.975. And the first place all-arounder was Karina Olson, Valley City, with a 37.375.
So there you go. First and second place here in the all-around. And the team totals?
Dickinson placed first with a 147.075. Jamestown placed second with a 144.550. Valley City placed third with a 141.150. And Grand Forks placed fourth with a 132.45.
So 141, 4 points above what they did in Fargo. And again, here as they wrap things up, here introducing and announcing the winners and the top 10 in each event here to the crowd. And then we'll talk with Coach Donnie Tobler. Johnny Tobler will join us, and we'll get his thoughts on tonight's meet as Valley City takes third, Jamestown second, and Dickinson takes first. But congratulations, Karina Olson gets the all-around here tonight.
That was amazing.
With 37 in the all-around
score.
That's a very good all-around score. She won one event and tied for first in the second event.
Yep.
And still came away with the all-around championship tonight for Karina Olson. So congratulations to Karina, the all-around champ here in this meet here in Valley City. So again, we'll take a quick break. We'll be back. We've got the conversation with Coach Johnny Tobler coming up next. And then we'll wrap things up here from the Youth Sports Complex here on the Highline Activity Network.
Tied for eighth with a 35.625, Riley Olson and Aspen. In seventh place with a 36.05, Julia Scari. In sixth place from Jamestown with a 36.075, Emma Hillerud. In fifth place from Dickinson High with a 36.575, Addison Fitterer. In fourth place from Dickinson High with a 36.775, Elizabeth Karski. In third place from Jamestown with a 36.80, Haley Nelson. In second place from Valley City with 36.975, Abby Thornton. And your all-around champion with a 37.375 from Valley City, Karina Olson. Congratulations, girls. Skate route win.
As we await Johnny Tobler, he's going to have a chat with the team. The Highlanders taking third tonight, and then we will wrap things up as we wait for Johnny to come over and have a quick conversation. Paul McDonald, Chauncey Crewald with you back here, and our nice podium that they set up for us here. We had a nice vantage point.
We're elevated and everything.
It is. They did a nice job putting together this press box. But final thoughts just on this one, Chauncey, and a chance to, again, see the three best teams in the state. So we didn't see Amy Fridley compete in all four, but we saw her compete in two. We still know how good of an athlete she is. Just your thoughts on the way tonight went.
We did place third, but we improved by 4 points from the last meet, and that was 2 weeks ago. I feel like we were pretty solid all the way around. We counted a few falls, but overall we can improve a lot over this Christmas break and come back even stronger January 10th?
January 8th or 10th is the next time out, or January 7th, I'm sorry, in Fargo. And we'll hear this, I'm sure, Coach Tobler talking about leaving points out there. Because of those falls, you left some points out there.
Yeah, and those do add up. So if you count 1 or 2 falls, that's a point right there. And we're 3 points behind Jamestown, a little more than we want to be. Jamestown had a wonderful meet, though. We were right in line with them on bars. We both scored around 34s. We were a little below them on vault, and that's just because we only have 3 flipping vaults now, and one of them, and Grace Undum did not land her vault. So if we can get her landing her vault and then 1 more flip, and then we count 4 flips, that would increase our vault score by a lot. Our beam score was about 1.5 points below Jamestown. And did we count multiple falls on that? On beam?
Yeah, but there were a couple.
We didn't have the best scores we wanted, but Karina really helped and Abby helped during every single event. And our floor scores were just there with them, both 36s.
And Jamestown had a solid beam. That was right in front of us. It was the last rotation. They really had a solid beam routine to get that 36.
Yeah, they all had great performances. The last 4, outstanding.
I think there was a 9-4, 9-3, and 8-9 in their scores in the final rotation. Well, Chauncey, thanks for joining us.
Of course,
nicely done.
Thank you.
You got a future if if things don't work out in your career. You know where you can always show.
Yeah, right.
Go back and review the tape. Yeah. You'll tell me differently. But appreciate you joining us tonight, and stick around. Again, Coach Johnny Tobler is going to join us here in just a moment, and we're going to wrap things up here from the Youth Sports Complex, and then we will say goodnight until tomorrow. We'll be back tomorrow with the wrestling. But again, Coach Tobler's on his way over. We'll be talking with him here momentarily, and then we'll wrap things up on the Highlander Activity Network. Paul McDonald back with you here at the Youth Sports Complex. Again, wrapping things up tonight. Highlanders take third with a 141. Coach Johnny Tobler joining us. 4 points better than the first meet, I think, Coach. Are you pleased with the 141?
Yeah, I'm really pleased with what we did today. Most excited and pleased about our athletes putting in some new skills. I think everyone added a skill. An upgrade is what you call them in gymnastics. Everybody upgraded today, and that was good. The score wasn't what we wanted, but we're early in the season and putting in those skills that we've been working at for a long time. So to see them, come out and put them in their routines today and execute that was huge. So. Yeah,
and I know when you and I talked about this, Dickinson was here, but having Amy Fridley only do 2 events, so you didn't see a full squad, if you will. But still, you saw the depth that Dickinson has, that they could still do what they did.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, they're very deep. So they're without her on let's see, what is it?
She did vault and beam, bars.
Yeah, I mean, without her, they're still, 36, 35 on beam, 36 on floor. I mean, they've got some depth there. And, they're loaded. They're loaded on vaults. And bars, I don't even think they hit bars, and they got a 37.75. So that's,
Again, points left out there, do you feel?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Points left out there for sure. our execution needs to improve in terms of, we're doing the skills, but we've got to execute the skills. We've got, just got to take the time to look at our routines and get those repetitions into making sure that not only are we doing, the upgrades that we put in, but doing them well. And so, yeah, that's kind of where we're at.
Karina Olson takes the all-around. Looks like she had a great floor routine and comes up with a 9.4 along with Haley Nelson, but a great floor routine for Karina.
Yeah, I mean, amazing all around. So, she's the bar routine, to have her put that together today was awesome. That was the thing we were the most excited about. Bars was a really big struggle for her last year, and we worked hard all summer long, getting those skills down, getting comfortable with them, and she was able to put that together today. And, she was her usual self, if you will, on floor and beam. And, yeah, we got to keep working with her on that vault. She's got to we just talked to all the girls about really knowing what it's going to take to carry your weight the rest of the season. And so we know where we need to improve. Karina knows that, vault is going to be a big area for her. I mean, she's at a 37.3 today. If we get that vault up there, she's going to be looking at a 38 in the near future. So
now the blue and white comes up on Monday, the fun one with Jamestown here at 5 o'clock here at the Youth Sports Complex.
Absolutely, yeah. I told them we're just going to focus on what we did in terms of our upgrades today, and that's it. Nothing too crazy. Just go out and do it. We got 3 days to rest and come to the meet and have fresh legs, fresh everything, and come out and try to build upon what we did today. It'll be fun too. They told them just cut loose, come have some fun, hang out with your friends from Jamestown, and so
enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Enjoy the. Well, thanks for the nice platform and our press box here.
Yeah, you bet. I'm glad you liked it. Yeah.
Got to see everything, being a little bit elevated, but our first gymnastics meet in the books, and we'll be doing the blue and white here on Monday. And Johnny, again, thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you again on Monday.
You bet. We'll see you Monday.
Yeah, sounds great. That is Johnny Tobler, head coach from the Valley City Highlanders. That's going to wrap things up again. The Highlanders taking third with a 141 in the team score, 41.15. Jamestown a 144.55, and Dickinson a 147.075 to take top honors here tonight. And Karina Olson was the all-around tonight for the Highlanders. She had an all-around with a 37 and a 37.375. So congratulations to Karina Olson, the all-around winner here tonight. Well, that's going to wrap things up. Again, my thanks to Brian Krewald and Jaden Johnson, our technical directors and cameraman tonight. And, of course, Chauncey Krewald, my partner for tonight's gymnastics competition. And, of course, all of our viewers that you're watching here this evening, we appreciate you joining us here on this Friday night. Again, wrestling all day tomorrow. We'll get started around 10:15. And a full day of wrestling at the Highlander Holiday Wrestling Tournament here tomorrow from the Hack. Until then, Paul McDonald saying thanks for joining us, and so long from the Youth Sports Complex.